Chapter 593. Kill, kill. He killed the Prince of Liang. Didn't his natal divine artifact shatter? How dare he attack? Does he want to die? Everyone in the palace was caught off guard at this moment. Young master. Tears rolled down Shangguan Zhaorong's cheeks. How arrogant could a person be? He would rather die than let the other party pay the price. Meanwhile, the Emperor of Western Zhou and his officials were in a complete mess. This was not a prince of Western Zhou, but a prince of Great Liang. If a foreign prince died in Western Zhou's territory, the situation would be slightly better and it would cause a diplomatic incident. But if it was not handled well, it would cause a war between the two countries. The price to pay was too great. The Emperor of Western Zhou had never expected that he, who had been sitting calmly on the fishing platform, would be knocked off the platform by a wave. He lost his composure and staggered down from his seat. He stared in disbelief at Liang Yingyao, who was lying in a pool of blood. The military official walked over and placed his hand on Liang Yingyao's main artery. Then he shook his head at the emperor, indicating that Liang Yingyao was dead. You killed him?" The Emperor of Western Zhou stared at Zhang Xiu in astonishment. He had completely lost his composure. He had even forgotten to call Zhang Xiu a fake immortal. Zhang Xiu said indifferently, "Those who insult the Qianqing school, die." The word die was like a heavy hammer striking his chest. The Western Zhou Emperor's legs gave way and he fell to the ground. The surrounding civil and military officials were all in a state of shock and panic. It seemed that things were more serious than they thought. What they didn't know was that the Prince of Liang had come to Western Zhou for peace talks. All these years, Western Zhou and Liang had been at war with each other. It wasn't easy for both sides to come to an agreement, and the Prince of Liang was the Liang representative for the peace talks. Now that the Liang representative had been killed, no matter what Western Zhou said, the Liang representative probably wouldn't believe it. The Prince of Western Zhou looked at Zhang Xiu with a complicated expression. His eyebrows were wrinkled and his face was bitter. The corners of his mouth were twitching and he was on the verge of tears. You. Sigh. The Emperor of Western Zhou clutched his head in pain. Western Zhou appeared to be powerful, but in reality, he knew in his heart that after years of war, the treasury had long been emptied. It was just a fake country with a golden exterior and could no longer withstand the torment. All the civil and military officials in the hall also had expressions of despair. Why are you fine? Zhang Xiu was still standing in the middle of the field. The sword in his hand was still dripping with blood, but he stood there unscathed. There wasn't even a trace of emotion on his face. The tear-stained Shangguan Zhaorong was also stunned. "That's right, how could young master be fine? What can happen to me?" The Emperor of Western Zhou pointed a trembling finger at Zhang Xiu and said, "Your natal divine artifact has been destroyed. Once you use your mana, your blood will flow in the opposite direction and you will die suddenly." Zhang Xiu laughed coldly. "Ignorant ant, when have I ever used my mana?" "You didn't?" Everyone present was in an uproar. The gentleman beside the Prince of Great Liang was also horrified. He came to Western Zhou to protect the prince. Now that the prince had been killed, he could not shirk his responsibility. He cried out involuntarily, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. If you didn't use your mana, how could you have killed the prince?" Zhang Xiu said, "What's so difficult about that? You seem to have forgotten that I am a divine cultivator. The strength of my divine body is incomparable to that of ordinary people. All I had to do was find the flaw in the sword technique and then use my sword. Yes, it was that simple and understated." But other than Shangguan Zhaorong, who was overjoyed, everyone else looked as if their parents had died. Everyone had overlooked one thing. Zhang Xiu was not an immortal cultivator, but a spiritual cultivator. The biggest difference between a spiritual cultivator and an immortal cultivator was that the physical strength of a spiritual cultivator's divine body was strong enough to kill an immortal cultivator without the need for mana. What was even more unexpected was that Zhang Xiu was able to find the flaw in the sword technique as soon as the Prince of Great Liang attacked. That was also the sword technique practiced by the Great Liang imperial family. Unexpectedly, he was so monstrous. The disciples of Qianqing school, the disciples of Qianqing School, the disciples of Qianqing School. Looking at the man in the field, the crowd felt sad. They had truly experienced the strength of a disciple of the Qianqing School. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The disaster was already set, and it was a self-inflicted disaster. But they had to understand the situation. The gentleman from Great Liang pointed at Zhang Xiu angrily. "You dare to kill the Prince of Great Liang. I want you to pay with your life." As he spoke, he was about to attack Zhang Xiu. He was not an ordinary immortal cultivator. He was a first-class expert sent to protect the prince. He was a proper celestial immortal. Zhang Xiu could kill the Prince of Great Liang with the physical strength of his divine body, but compared to a celestial immortal, he was far from it. "Wait." The Crown Prince of Western Zhou rushed forward and stood in front of Zhang Xiu. "Before you attacked, the Great Immortal said very clearly that life and death are up to fate. If the Great Immortal is not weak, then he will die under the sword of the Prince of Great Liang. If you are willing to bet, then you must accept defeat. What's more, it was your Great Liang who humiliated the Qianqing School first." The gentleman said, "Crown Prince of Western Zhou, you are shielding the murderer. Good, I see clearly that Western Zhou is not sincere about peace talks. You even plotted to kill the Prince of Great Liang." The Crown Prince of Western Zhou's expression changed drastically. The Emperor of Western Zhou roared angrily, "Crown Prince, stand down." "Father, stand down." The Emperor of Western Zhou said, "Guards, take this person." The guards outside had already been waiting for a long time. When they heard the Emperor's order, they all rushed in. Shangguan Zhao Rong hurriedly got up to protect Zhang Xiu. Although she had cultivated a few celestial immortals and her talent was amazing, after all, the time was short and she couldn't do anything. At this time, Shangguan Zhao Rong missed Li Chong. With Li Chong around, she could still protect him. Zhang Xiu was crippled, and she was weak. She had no ability to protect herself. "Father." The Crown Prince of Western Zhou stood in front of the guards and refused to budge. "Great Immortal Jiang is an honored guest invited by your son. Anyone with eyes can see the cause of today's incident." He almost wanted to say that Liang Yingyao had a death wish. "You can't tell right from wrong." The Emperor of Western Zhou widened his eyes in anger. "What did you say?" He did not expect his son to say that he was an emperor who could not tell right from wrong. "I know what you're thinking, father. You want to capture Great Immortal Jiang and give Liang an explanation, but don't forget how this incident started. Moreover, even if you hand her over, Liang may not accept it. In the current situation, she was already dead. Whatever he said would be useless. Take her down, take her down." The Emperor of Western Zhou did not listen to his explanation. Seeing this, the Crown Prince said, "Father, is Great Immortal Jiang's sword not enough to prove that she is a disciple of Qianqing School?" Yes, in fact, many people present believed it. It was just that there were too many rumors outside. Even if they wanted to shut their mouths, they still had to do something. But this sword strike was Qianqing School's show of strength. Seeing that the Emperor was hesitating, the Crown Prince said, "Let's listen to the situation in Liang before we make a decision." The Emperor of Western Zhou suppressed his anger and looked at the Prince of Liang lying in a pool of blood. Then, he glanced at the officials present and said, "All right, then let's wait for the news to reach Liang and see how they react before we make a decision." A banquet had turned into such a mess. Zhang Xiu and Shangguan Zhaorong returned to the bedroom. Shangguan Zhaorong asked, "What should we do, young master?" They were now under surveillance. The Emperor of Western Zhou would never let them leave. Zhang Xiu did not answer. Shangguan Zhaorong knew that if Liang refused to let the matter rest, Western Zhou would definitely hand Zhang Xiu over. Her young master was now a prisoner waiting to be slaughtered. He could lose his life at any time. Unless Zhang Xiu could recover his strength. In that case, even if Liang and Western Zhou joined forces, they would not dare to act presumptuously in front of Zhang Xiu. Shangguan Zhaorong's eyes gradually dimmed, revealing endless sorrow. If she wanted the goddess to descend, she would have to pay the price with her life. The night gradually deepened. As usual, Shangguan Zhaorong warmed Zhang Xiu's bed. But after she was done, she would leave. Zhang Xiu looked at her in surprise. The lights were dim and the stove was burning brightly. She had even lit some spices. The beauty behind the curtains looked somewhat shy. Zhang Xiu asked, "Aren't you going to rest?" Shangguan Zhaorong moved her red lips and said shyly, "Can I stay tonight?" Chapter 594. Zhang Xiu smelled the faint scent of incense mixed with Zhao Rong's pleasant scent. The beauty behind the curtains was blushing and her eyes were lively. She looked lovely. Why? Zhao Rong's eyes were charming. She was so shy that she was unable to show her face. She bit her delicate red lips and said with all her might, Zhao Rong, is afraid of the cold." Zhang Xiu said, "That's good." He originally thought that Zhao Rong Shangguan was frightened, but not long after he laid down, that warm body came close to him. Her fragrant bones were fragrant, warm and soft. Her soft exhalation blew against Zhang Xiu's ear, truly wanting to take his life. "Young master." "Hm?" Zhang Xiu responded. He did not put up his guard against Zhao Rong. The heat and gentleness attacked him, stimulating his nerves. "Zhao Rong has thought it over." Zhang Xiu asked in surprise, "What have you thought about?" "Zhao Rong is willing to let the goddess descend." Zhang Xiu was shocked. He turned his head and was about to speak when he was stopped by Zhao Rong's bold action. She stretched out her slender fingers and pressed them against Zhang Xiu's lips, not allowing Zhang Xiu to continue speaking. Zhang Xiu realized that her eyes were filled with tears. For a moment, Zhang Xiu felt the softest part of his heart being touched. "But Zhao Rong has a request." Zhang Xiu understood that Zhao Rong must have seen the letter from the Crown Prince of Western Zhou. She must have known the conditions for the goddess to descend in her physical body. What request? Shangguan Zhaorong reached out and hugged Zhang Xiu, but Zhang Xiu could feel that her body was trembling and her heart was beating fast. She almost used a pleading voice to say, "Zhao Rong, I want to be young master's woman." Zhao Rong does not ask for too much. Just one night. Even if Zhang Xiu had a heart of stone, at this moment, his heart was surging with emotions. He only hesitated for a moment before hugging the beauty. Zhao Rong Shangguan's mind was already starting to feel dizzy. She never thought that she would do such a shameful thing, but the desire in the depths of her heart was so strong. She felt that her body was like a cloud, soft and light as a feather. Her mind was in a daze as she let her imagination run wild. She whispered softly, young master." The fire in the stove was still burning, the dim light shone into the curtain, casting their entangled shadows on the wall. Shangguan Zhaorong was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. A sobbing sound came from her throat, a trembling voice. The usually aloof and indifferent young master was actually such a person. Only when she heard the begging clearly did she realize that she was a little too excited and too boorish. That night, the snowstorm in Western Zhou was very fierce. The entire imperial city was shivering in the cold wind, unable to bear the devastation of the snowstorm. There was no need for Western Zhou to send a letter, for Daliang had already sent an urgent message back. The result was predictable. Delaying the punishment for one night was only an opportunity for the Crown Prince of Western Zhou to buy some time, but in essence, it was treating the symptoms but not the root cause. The next day, as soon as the sun rose and news came from Daliang, Western Zhou would definitely have to give an explanation. Of course, Western Zhou would push Zhang Xiu out. It was no surprise that he was the real culprit. As for whether the two countries would be afraid of Zhang Xiu's identity as a disciple of Qianqing school, if they were, the Prince of Daliang would not provoke Zhang Xiu in public, and the Emperor of Western Zhou would not sit back and watch the show. After all, how much attention would Qianqing school pay to a crippled disciple? A night of heavy snow covered the entire imperial city in white. The rising sun shone on the white snow, making it seem exceptionally bright. The sky was incomparably clear. Zhang Xiu woke up early and went to the pavilion by the waterside. He held some fish food in his hand and fed the fish in the pond. In the cold winter, if it were not for the food, no fish would float to the surface of the water. The snow had stopped and the sun was warm. The sound of snow being swept could be heard everywhere. The entire palace seemed peaceful, but everyone knew that this was just a facade. Last night's banquet had shocked the entire imperial court and spread like wildfire throughout western Zhou and Daliang. Not far away, Jiang Xiu had seen a palace servant several times. He was an old palace servant. Even after such a thing happened, he was still cleaning the courtyard for Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu was curious. "Why are you still sweeping the snow here?" The old palace servant swept the accumulated snow from the corridor of the waterside pavilion into the pond. The accumulated snow floated on the surface of the water and slowly melted. He stopped and said, "The Crown Prince asked me to take care of the courtyard for the immortal. I dare not neglect it." Jiang Xiu nodded slightly. It was a blessing for the Crown Prince to have a loyal servant. "Where is the Crown Prince?" The old palace servant lowered his head sadly and continued to work. After a while he said, "The Crown Prince has been imprisoned by the Emperor." "Why?" Jiang Xiu was shocked. This matter could not be blamed on the Crown Prince of Western Zhou. Although he was a guest invited by the Crown Prince of Daliang had only himself to blame. The Crown Prince sent a letter to Qianqing School, but it was discovered. Jiang Xiu was moved. This Crown Prince was indeed special. However, he was also moved. Although he felt that the Crown Prince's actions were foolish, he was sincere. So what if the letter was sent to Qianqing School? Qianqing School has never been free since ancient times. Qianqing School was about to move, and someone was plotting to assassinate the sect master. It was in a precarious situation. Moreover, the Ji Dao sect was eager to see him dead. Why would they save him? A tall beauty appeared in the distance. Today, Shangguan Zhao Rong was wearing a snow-white mink fur coat that hung to her feet. It wrapped her beautiful figure tightly. Her eyebrows were relaxed, and her white cheeks were slightly red. There was a hint of flirtatiousness in her eyes. When she saw Jiang Xiu looking at her, she shyly and sweetly lowered her head. She did not dare to look at the young master. She was shy. "Young master, it's cold outside. Why don't you stay in the room for a while?" Jiang Xiu looked at her with a rare tenderness in his eyes. "Zhao Rong wants to accompany young master." She leisurely walked over, and the plum blossoms behind her embellished this plain white world, making Shangguan Zhao Rong even more charming. People from Western Zhou and Daliang should be coming soon. Zhao Rong wants to accompany young master to the temple. Jiang Xiu looked into her eyes. They were very dark and bright, but he could see the reluctance in her eyes. However, he still pretended to be calm. He said, "I said before that this path will not work. I will not take it." "Young master." Shangguan Zhao Rong's nose twitched, and tears suddenly appeared in her eyes. She did not want to die. She was still so young. She had just become Jiang Xiu's woman. She was reluctant. She wanted to stay by Jiang Xiu's side, but there was no other way. It was too late. But this is the only path. Zhao Rong is willing. Jiang Xiu shook his head and slowly turned around. His back was facing Zhao Rong. His back was as cold and arrogant as ever. He, Jiang Xiu, would not entrust his life to a woman's sacrifice. At that moment, the sound of heavy footsteps could be heard, causing the ground to tremble. Soldiers in black armor began to gather around the palace, led by the Emperor of Western Zhou and the envoys of Liang. "Young master!" Zhao Rong panicked. Her face turned pale. "Quick, let's go to the temple." However, all directions had been sealed off, and there was no way out at all. "Quick, quick, surround them!" The leader of the guards kept urging his guards. Boom, boom. The guards who had already arrived stomped their feet. They wore ferocious masks and held spears in their hands. Under the sunlight, they glinted coldly. Jiang Xiu. The Emperor of Western Zhou and the envoy from Daliang looked at Jiang Xiu from afar. "You killed a prince of Daliang in public. Your crime is unpardonable. I advise you to surrender." Otherwise, you will die under a knife. At least, your corpse will be intact. The Emperor of Western Zhou said in a low voice. The Emperor's face was no longer benevolent. It was replaced by a dignified and ruthless expression. The envoy standing beside him was a new envoy from Daliang. He had rushed to Western Zhou in the snow last night to investigate the matter and give Daliang an explanation. More importantly, he wanted to kill Jiang Xiu and settle the matter so that it would not affect the peace talks between the two countries. This was a matter that both Western Zhou and Daliang were willing to resolve. Of course, Western Zhou would also have to pay compensation. After all, their prince had died here. Jiang Xiu said, "I'm standing right here. If you're not afraid of death, come." Chapter 595. Last night, he had killed the great Liang's prince in the palace hall. He was also a disciple of the Qianqing school, and it was rumored that this person had single-handedly destroyed the reincarnation palace, which was feared by the entire cultivation world. When he stood with his saber in front of him, he only said a few words, but it was enough to make people feel comfortable. This person's powerful aura was something that no one had ever seen on anyone before. If they knew that the person in front of them was Zhang Luoxia, whose name had once shaken the entire Immortal Martial Arts Academy, they would definitely be scared to death. For a moment, the Emperor of Western Zhou, the envoys of Great Liang, and the commanders and guards present were all stunned. After a while, they regained their senses. The commander of the guard said, "We have received His Majesty's order to capture this person. There is no need to be courteous with him, dead or alive. Kill him." The guards roared angrily. Only then did the generals and guards rush towards Jiang Xiu with their sabers and swords. They either flew into the air or stepped on the snow as they swarmed towards him. "Kill." Jiang Xiu's eyes were deep and cold. He said to Shangguan Zhao Rong, who was beside him, "Stand behind me." Of course, Shangguan Zhao Rong obediently cooperated. Although her charming face was anxious, there was no fear or panic. Instead, there was only sadness. The first guard in the air had already rushed over. Jiang Xiu's long sword slashed through the air. The sword was so fast that it couldn't be seen, but that guard had already been beheaded in midair and fell to the ground. With another slash of his sword, the two guards who had rushed over from the side also fell to the ground. The black iron armor on their bodies were like paper under Jiang Xiu's sword. Although the great deity's divine body didn't have his natal divine artifact, he was still a deity. In fact, these ordinary people couldn't compare to him. He raised his head and saw a guard slashing down heavily with his saber. Jiang Xiu took a step forward and thrust his sword upward. Although he attacked later, his sword arrived first and hit the opponent's throat. It looked as if the opponent had put his throat toward the tip of the sword. In just a few breaths of time, more than a dozen corpses had accumulated around Jiang Xiu. His actions were fast and ruthless. Everyone looked at Jiang Xiu's sword dance with an indescribable sense of beauty. Anything that had been tempered thousands of times would have a smooth and beautiful feeling. Jiang Xiu had been cultivating the Tao of the sword for more than 3,000 years. Even without magic power, his understanding of the sword and the use of it were beyond their imagination. So strong. The guard commander only spat out this sentence after a long while. "Have the celestial immortals attack." The emperor of the Western Zhou dynasty finally realized that even though Jiang Xiu's natal divine artifact was shattered, he was still a powerhouse. Even if he did not have any mana, he was still not someone that could be defeated by ordinary people. They would need to send out a real powerhouse to take him down. No matter how good one's swordsmanship was, when faced with a real spell, it could only be disarmed. Jiang Xiu looked up and saw that there were no less than 50 corpses around him. The snow on the ground had been melted by the boiling blood, but the number of enemies was increasing with each passing day. They were coming at him like a tidal wave. He knew that if he continued to kill like this, his strength would be exhausted sooner or later. He said, "Follow me, we'll kill our way out." Shangguan Zhao Rong replied. Jiang Xiu's words warmed her heart. She stared at him for a long time, watching him kill the enemies one by one. Her eyes became blurred and unreal. When she came back to her senses, she realized that her vision was blurred by tears. She followed closely behind Zhang Xiu. Along the waterside corridor, they killed their way out. Zhang Xiu killed all the guards in front of them and dropped them into the pond. Zhang Xiu continued to clear the way out. Suddenly, Zhang Xiu looked up and saw a person flying up into the sky. He threw a long sword and formed a seal. Suddenly, the flying swords on the sword shot down like rain. Zhang Xiu's eyes narrowed. He was helpless against mana. Mana was another kind of power. He could see the flaws in the sword technique, but his opponent clearly understood him and knew to keep a distance from Zhang Xiu. At such a distance, Zhang Xiu could certainly rush up and kill him. But if Zhang Xiu rushed up, Shangguan Zhao Rong would be left without anyone to protect her. What would happen then? It was self-evident. Suddenly, the long sword in his hand trembled, and countless circles of sword flowers danced diagonally in front of him. However, no matter how fast the physical strength of the sword danced, how could it be compared to the sword art that contained the mysteries of heaven and earth? There was simply no way to compare. The sword light penetrated through the sword net. With a puchi, Zhang Xiu's hand that was holding the sword was cut open. Fortunately, he had a divine body. If he had an ordinary physical body, his hand would have been cut off. The huge force of the sword light hitting the sword also shook Zhang Xiu back. Behind him, Shangguan Zhao Rong also retreated. But when she turned her head, there was a bang in the water. A guard rushed out of the water and slashed at Shangguan Zhao Rong. Ah! Suddenly, there was a scream. Zhang Xiu hurriedly looked back and saw Shangguan Zhao Rong hurriedly dodging behind him. Her reaction was quite fast and she immediately dodged the other party's long sword. The blade cut a large hole in her cloak and with the force of gravity, the entire mink cloak fell to the ground. Zhang Xiu wanted to turn back to help, but the sword light in the sky became faster, leaving him no time to do anything. Shangguan Zhao Rong glanced at Zhang Xiu and smiled sweetly. But the bitterness in her eyes couldn't be concealed. She knew that they were finished. They couldn't hold on anymore. But her sweet smile showed that she was satisfied. Zhang Xiu remembered what she said last night. Zhao Rong wasn't greedy. One night was enough. Zhang Xiu would never forget these words. The guard once again slashed at Shangguan Zhao Rong. He wasn't Zhang Xiu's match, but he had full confidence in dealing with Shangguan Zhao Rong. Shangguan Zhao Rong didn't have any weapons. She reached out her hand to block, but her eyesight was astonishing. She blocked his wrist. This was originally a weak spot, but Shangguan Zhao Rong had overlooked one thing. How could her strength compare to a cultivator who had practiced martial arts for many years? Ah! Shangguan Zhao Rong lost her voice and cried out again. She was shaken back and behind her were corpses. When Zhang Xiu looked back, she tripped over the corpses. They were currently in the corridor of the waterside pavilion. The corridor on the side was only knee-deep. When she stepped out, her entire body fell into the pool. Zhao Rong. Zhang Xiu was startled in his heart. His magic power was gone, so it was very difficult for him to see the situation underwater. However, he had just seen a guard come out from the water. There must be a guard of the imperial palace under the water. Shangguan Zhao Rong falling into the water was too dangerous. He almost didn't hesitate. He didn't care about the sword on his body. He turned and jumped to the side, plunging into the water. In the cold winter, the pool water was so cold that Zhang Xiu couldn't bear it. He tried to swim towards Shangguan Zhao Rong. He felt his head hurt and was a little dizzy. It was as if all the strength in his body had been sucked away. He was puzzled. Even if the water was cold, it shouldn't be like this. What's more, the water wasn't frozen. It was just an order. But he didn't dive more than 1 or 2 meters. He saw Zhao Rong in the distance. Seeing his scene, Zhang Xiu was stunned. He saw Shangguan Zhao Rong in the water. She was struggling to reach out to Zhang Xiu for help. But her body didn't move. Her eyes looked at Zhang Xiu with desire. Boom! Zhang Xiu's head seemed to explode. This scene seemed familiar. No, it should be that it was still fresh in his memory. Back then in the ancient desert city on Earth, Xie Ting fell into the water like this. She reached out to Zhang Xiu to save her, but she seemed to be unable to move. "Young master." A sincere voice seemed to be by his ear. Zhang Xiu felt tears flowing out of his eyes. In his life, he had suffered countless betrayals and injuries. The woman in front of him treated him like this. He would rather give up everything and give up his cultivation in exchange for her safety. No, no. Zhang Xiu's heart longed. "Young master." Shangguan Zhao Rong's eyes were filled with endless reluctance. She realized that she was reluctant. It wasn't that she was reluctant to die, but that she was reluctant to leave young master. "Zhao Rong." Zhang Xiu reached out his hand. But he didn't know who he would pull up. Was it Shangguan Zhao Rong or someone else? So he didn't dare. At this moment, his heart was in pain. The pain penetrated his heart. Did I cry? Chapter 596. Zhang Xiu stretched out his hand with difficulty. He knew that Shangguan Zhao Rong wanted him to reach out and pull her up, but he also knew that if he reached out and pulled her up, just like the river in the ancient desert city, the one he pulled up might not be Shangguan Zhao Rong. But Zhang Xiu could not bear to be indifferent to her cry for help. He could not bear to see Shangguan Zhao Rong afraid. And Shangguan Zhao Rong was already in the water. She would have to come up sooner or later. Could it be that she would stay in the water forever? Sooner or later she would suffocate to death. Things had already reached this point. Zhang Xiu could only reach out. When he reached out his hand to Shangguan Zhao Rong, the closer he got, the more he felt that Shangguan Zhao Rong was far away from him. "Zhao Rong." Shangguan Zhao Rong kept looking at Zhang Xiu with pleading eyes. Her eyes were still white from being soaked in the water, and a small bubble appeared, but her eyes still made people feel heartbroken. When Zhang Xiu's hand held Shangguan Zhao Rong, his whole person's thoughts seemed to suddenly sink. The dizziness was unbearable. His whole person seemed to be unable to hold on. Zhang Xiu painfully closed his eyes, holding her hand, suddenly pulled up, ignoring everything else. "Farewell forever?" Hua, Zhang Xiu pulled Shangguan Zhao Rong out of the water. The sound of splashing water sounded. The guards who originally planned to jump into the water were instead frightened by Zhang Xiu's rush. And when Zhang Xiu left the water, the dizziness and sinking feeling disappeared. Looking at the people in front of him who wanted to kill him, the long sword in his hand fiercely slashed out. "Ah!" Two of them screamed. The two guards who were still in midair were beheaded on the spot. This time, Zhang Xiu's move was more like a venting of hatred. The long sword drew a half arc in the air. The sharp sword Qi just happened to hit the guards who were rushing over. In the air, 3 more guards fell to the ground. Breaking through the blockade in the sky, Zhang Xiu hugged Shangguan Zhao Rong and landed on the waterside corridor. He looked at Shangguan Zhao Rong in his arms. Her beautiful eyes were wide open as she looked at Zhang Xiu in surprise. "Are you okay?" Shangguan Zhao Rong shook his head. At this moment, Zhang Xiu didn't know what to feel. He really wanted to ask the girl in front of him who she was. Was she Shangguan Zhao Rong or that goddess? However, there was no time for that at the moment. "Kill!" Shouts and screams filled the air as the magicians of the Imperial Guard Gate swarmed in from all directions. More and more Imperial Guards rushed out from the surroundings of the palace, as if there was no end to them. "Stand behind me!" It was still the same words, but the doubts in his heart made Zhang Xiu's tone change a little. It was less gentle than before, and a little colder. If there were no ants in front of him, Shangguan Zhao Rong would not have fallen into the water, and such a thing would not have happened. "Damn it, all of you deserve to die." His sword sped up along with Zhang Xiu. His figure flashed, and the shadow of his sword also flashed. Everywhere he passed, there was no one who could withstand his attack. Every time he attacked, someone would fall. Fresh blood splattered everywhere, and one life after another was harvested like weeds. Zhang Xiu killed his way out, and the entire corridor was already filled with corpses. Countless Imperial Guards' corpses fell into the pond, and because they were wearing armor, none of them could float up. Humph! Another cold snort came from the sky. When he looked up, he saw the sword light filling the sky again. Zhang Xiu's eyes flashed, and the sword in his hand suddenly flew out. With a whoosh, it streaked across the sky. Strangely, the sword did not collide with any of the sword light, and passed through the dense rain. Ah! There was a scream. The swordsman who was still flying in the sky and casting spells screamed. The flying sword pierced through his heart, and he flew backward without slowing down. Together with his sword, he stabbed into the roof of the palace behind him. Seeing this scene, everyone present frowned. The Emperor of Western Zhou also frowned slightly. One of the celestial immortals was killed, and it was said that this person had already advanced to the great divine realm. Now it seemed that the Crown Prince of Western Zhou did not exaggerate. "Your Highness, are you going to let him continue killing?" The envoy of Liang asked. He knew that there were many celestial immortals in the palace of Western Zhou, but he was unwilling to send them out. He even wanted Liang to send someone, but now one of Liang's celestial immortals had already been killed. Mobilize the moon concealment of the Black Armor Army, the Emperor of Western Zhou ordered. In the next moment, men in black cloaks appeared on the roofs of the surrounding palaces, and their bodies were shrouded in black robes. The Emperor of Western Zhou pointed at Zhang Xiu, who was still fighting in the crowd. "Kill!" The moon concealment guards rushed toward Zhang Xiu. Every one of them pinched the Dharma incantation in their hands and constantly struck out seals. Zhang Xiu was already having a hard time dealing with one celestial immortal, let alone so many people. Zhang Xiu looked up. In this situation, he knew that he would not be able to escape. The dignified Zhang Luoxia was actually being bullied by dogs. He suddenly raised his head and laughed. "How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? You must be tired of living." "Oh no!" A bad feeling welled up in the hearts of everyone present on the scene. They knew that the most dreadful moment of a trapped beast's battle had appeared. Zhang Xiu was about to erupt with his magic power. He would certainly die if he were to cast the magic technique. However, how could they guarantee that they would be able to withstand the great heavenly god's final attack before his death? Earth cloud travel left capital heaven's wrath. Zhang Xiu faintly spat out an incantation. As soon as his voice fell, the whole world shook violently. This was the dying blow of the Qianqing school's legend. Boom! Boom! Blood explosion. At this moment, the blood in Zhang Xiu's body gushed out violently. Although Zhang Xiu was still a long way from the immortal king realm, when his blood gushed out from his pores, his entire body radiated a bloody light. 100 zhang behind him, a terrifying shadow of an ancient blood god appeared in the sky. Before one could see it clearly, the entire world was covered in a layer of white. Run! Zhang Xiu is about to counterattack before his death. Boom! With him as the center, everything within a radius of 10 miles exploded. The towering palace was uprooted like tofu dregs and shattered into powder. The entire ground seemed to have sunk in. The leader of the Hidden Moon Guards immediately used his cloak to protect the Western Zhou Emperor. At this moment, the Western Zhou Emperor was scared silly. This was the true power that Zhang Xiu possessed. It was simply enough to destroy the heavens and the earth. He really regretted provoking such a terrifying character. Fortunately, his natal artifact had been destroyed, and he could only use it one last time. With the protection of the leader of the Hidden Moon Guards, he felt his whole body being pulled back by the leader of the Hidden Moon Guards. "Your Majesty, retreat quickly." Their speed was fast, but no matter how fast they were not as fast and fierce as Zhang Xiu's blood explosion. It was really like a nuclear explosion. The strong force hit their bodies and directly blasted them away. Pfft. Zhang Xiu chose this secret technique to disperse his blood, but he still couldn't withstand the reverse flow of his qi and blood. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were all bleeding. He reached out to grab Zhao Rong's slender waist and flew into the sky. "Let's go." He brought Shangguan Zhao Rong with him and turned into a beam of light that shot into the distance. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's consciousness gradually blurred, and the scenery in front of him also began to blur. He only saw that the direction he had randomly chosen was actually the holy mountain, which was the mountain where the statue of the goddess was erected. His consciousness became more and more blurry. He told himself that he must hold on. If he fell, not only would he fall to his death, but Zhao Rong would also fall to her death. Relying on his incomparable willpower, Jiang Xiu flew all the way to the top of the mountain. When he saw the stairs leading to the top, he fainted. Zhao Rong fell heavily on top of him. "Big brother Jiang, big brother Jiang," Zhao Rong anxiously called out. At this moment, Jiang Xiu's appearance was very servile. His eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were all bleeding non-stop. His body was also covered with countless sword wounds. Jiang Xiu fainted in front of everyone. What he saw was the scene just now. He was in the water with Zhao Rong. Zhao Rong reached out to him and looked at him pleadingly, asking him for help. This was the thing that he couldn't let go of the most in his life. Even if he fainted, he still remembered it. Jiang Xiu's life force was rapidly flowing away. After losing his life divine artifact, using his spiritual power was equivalent to burning his life force. This was like a person whose heart was already overloaded doing strenuous exercise. In the end, the heart couldn't bear it and exploded. Chapter 597. Big Brother Jiang, Big Brother Jiang. Zhao Rong anxiously called out. She raised her head and looked around, her eyes flashing with surprise. Then, she carried Jiang Xiu on her back and drilled into the mountain. Along the way, she would look down at the weeds under her feet and casually pluck some to hold in her hands. They escaped from the imperial palace. There were many people with high cultivation in the imperial palace, so they must know that Jiang Xiu couldn't have escaped far. Although his life-bound magic tool was killed by the reverse flow of his qi and blood, they must see his body if he was alive or dead. With the caution of both sides, they must see his body. Soon, a large number of people would be sent out to search for him. Inside a hidden cave, Shangguan Zhao Rong had Jiang Xiu lean against a rock wall. She reached out to feel his pulse, her expression very grave. She picked out a stalk of the herb she had pulled and placed it in her mouth to chew. Then she spat it out and placed it in her palm before putting another stalk into her mouth. After mixing it, she fed Jiang Xiu the medicine. After taking the medicine, Zhao Rong took Jiang Xiu's pulse again and then went out to pick up some dry branches. They came out of the water. Although Jiang Xiu's blood explosion was powerful and generated a lot of heat, they were soaked. In such cold weather, they would freeze to death if they didn't get warm. Soon, she came back with a bundle of firewood and lit a bonfire beside Jiang Xiu. The fire lit up the dim cave and the surrounding air slowly warmed up. Outside, a large number of soldiers came out to search for their whereabouts. Of course, a group of Western Zhou soldiers also began to search the mountain. Inside the cave, Zhao Rong used a tree to prop up a shelf. She took off her and Jiang Xiu's clothes and hung them on the shelf. Not only could it block the wind outside, it could also dry the clothes. Then, she watched Jiang Xiu from the bonfire. Jiang Xiu's condition was very serious. His heart meridians had been completely severed. If it weren't for the medicine used to keep him alive, Jiang Xiu would have died long ago. Now, if he wanted to save his life, he needed a top-grade spirit medicine that could allow a person to be reborn. There were still people outside searching the mountain. Zhao Rong's brows were tightly knitted. Big brother Jiang. Jiang Xiu's body began to tremble. His life force was on the verge of collapse. Cold, cold. Shangguan Zhao Rong reached out to touch his forehead and was shocked. Jiang Xiu's forehead was so hot that it scared people to death. Because he had a fever, he felt cold. She turned around and looked at the clothes hanging on the rack. They were almost dry and warm. She took them down and put them on Jiang Xiu. After putting on his clothes, Jiang Xiu calmed down a little. But with a ding, 2 porcelain bottles fell out. They were very small, but it was obvious that the bottles were not ordinary things. Moreover, they were always on him, so they must be important things. Shangguan Zhao Rong curiously picked it up and opened the first bottle. The cold qi inside gushed out. It was so cold. She immediately plugged the cork and her eyes flashed. Could it be the true netherworld water? She then opened the second bottle. There was a stench of blood inside. Earth dragon fire snake's blood? It was indeed these two things. Zhang Xiu did not use them all at that time. To be more precise, there was a little residue left. Zhao Rong's face lit up. There it is. Big brother Zhang, did you think that you might have this calamity? That you prepared a treasure in advance that can allow people to be reborn? She first fed Zhang Xiu a little bit of the true netherworld water. In fact, there was only this little bit. With this little bit of true netherworld water, it would probably take half a day for the poison to take effect. Only at noon, when the sun was at its fiercest, did Zhang Xiu let out a cry of pain. Shangguan Zhao Rong did not dare to delay. She immediately fed Zhang Xiu the earth dragon fire snake's blood. Now that his life artifact was broken, Zhang Xiu's body was no longer connected to the astronomical rune stone. If he took the earth dragon fire snake's blood, he would not be poisoned again. After taking it, he slowly calmed down. Then, Shangguan Zhao Rong helped him sit upright and began to use her magic to help him tidy up the meridians and bones in his body. Zhang Xiu was a god. The structure of the meridians in his body was completely different from that of an immortal. However, this did not seem to be a problem for Shangguan Zhao Rong. She seemed to be very used to everything, from picking herbs, lighting a bonfire, and setting up a drying rack. When Shangguan Zhao Rong's spiritual qi entered Zhang Xiu's body, she found a green light of the divine Tao protecting Zhang Xiu's heart. She had always thought that Zhang Xiu's willpower was strong, but it turned out that the light of the divine Tao was protecting his last trace of life. This was even better. She could guide the light of the divine Tao to automatically repair his divine body. The next day, even more soldiers poured into the mountain. Although the mountain range was large, it could not withstand such a search. Fortunately, it had just snowed, and the mountain was covered in white snow. The entrance of the cave they were in was also somewhat covered by the falling snow, making it even more hidden. There were a few times when Shangguan Zhao Rong heard the conversation of the soldiers outside, but in the end, they did not discover anything. On the 5th day of his coma, Zhang Xiu leisurely walked over. Shangguan Zhao Rong caught some snow, melted it with magic, and fed him water. The moment he woke up, Zhao Rong was pleasantly surprised. "Big brother Zhang, you're finally awake." There was no trace of blood on Zhang Xiu's handsome face. In fact, it was even a little green. His lips were dry. "Big brother Zhang." A trace of pain flashed through his eyes. "Why are you calling me Big brother Zhang?" The Zhao Rong in front of him still had that devastatingly beautiful face. Her eyes were still as moving as before, flashing with light. Then do you still let Zhao Rong call you young master?" Zhao Rong's face was a bit disappointed, and also a bit shy. That night, they had already done that. It was normal for her to want to call him more intimately. After all, when a man and woman broke through the last layer of window paper, there would be a leap in their relationship. "How do you like to call me?" "Then Zhao Rong will still call you young master." Zhang Xiu was a bit confused. Who was this beauty in front of him? Was she still Zhao Rong? Everything was very familiar. Her every frown and smile. Zhang Xiu secretly blamed himself for not paying enough attention to Zhao Rong before. He did not even understand her habits and small actions. Now he could not tell. He could not help but ask, "Are you a goddess or Shangguan Zhao Rong?" Zhao Rong stretched out her slender hand and gently touched Zhang Xiu's forehead. She smiled. "Young master, have you become stupid? If I'm not Zhao Rong, then who am I?" Zhang Xiu thought that if she really was a goddess, she would not deny it. Thinking of this, he began to feel happy. Zhao Rong was still here. "How does young master feel?" Zhang Xiu was very weak. Although Zhao Rong had been feeding him blood-replenishing medicine these past few days, and there was also some meat soup on the side. However, with such severe blood loss, It was not something that could be recovered in just a few days. I don't have any strength. Illness goes away like silk. Zhao Rong said. It's already a miracle that young master is still alive. No one has ever been able to use a powerful spell with their life source artifact damaged and still survive. Of course, this was all because of the green divine light. Zhang Xiu squeezed out a smile. However, if young master wants to live, he won't be able to hold on for long. He must repair his life source artifact. This is the most important thing. Zhang Xiu also understood that with his life source artifact destroyed, his body's life force had been overdrawn. His life was now thinner than paper. He looked at Zhao Rong, who had been taking care of him these past few days, and wanted to reach out to hold her hand. What Zhang Xiu did not expect was that when his hand touched Zhao Rong's slender jade-like hand, the latter's nerves reflexively shrank away. This made Zhang Xiu very surprised. After all, the two of them had already done that, so what was this little bit of skin contact? Zhao Rong discreetly covered Zhang Xiu with clothes and then took the initiative to hold Zhang Xiu's hand. She said, "Does young master feel cold? Do you want to add some firewood?" Oh. This dispelled Zhang Xiu's doubts. He wondered if he was being too sensitive. He changed the topic and said, "It's easier said than done to repair a life source artifact." Zhao Rong said, "Has young master seen the portrait of Buzhou?" "I have." "Then does young master remember the snake coiled around the Heaven's Inquisition pillar?" Zhang Xiu nodded again. Zhao Rong said, "If Zhao Rong's guess is correct, if we can find the blood of that snake, we should be able to reconnect the shattered Heaven's Inquisition stone." Zhang Xiu felt that this was very reasonable. However, the snake coiled around Buzhou was a part of his body. Who knew what kind of snake it was? Chapter 598. The era of God Buzhou was too long ago. After the fall of God Buzhou and the collapse of heaven and earth, the immortal martial continent was almost destroyed, leaving behind many legends. Most of them were just guesses. Some even doubted the true form of God Buzhou. Even Zhang Xiu was puzzled that the current God Buzhou was a heavenly pillar with a snake body coiled around it. There were many different forms of gods. There were even people who had two snakes coiled around them. But for a heavenly pillar to have a snake coiled around it, how huge would that be? The Zhuyin was about 2,000 li long. It was just child's play in front of God Buzhou. Zhang Xiu said, "Your guesses are very reasonable, but God Buzhou is an ancient figure. We don't know what kind of snake it is." Shangguan Zhao Rong said, "Zhao Rong has seen it in an ancient book. It's the coiling dragon snake." Zhang Xiu was stunned. He was also someone who liked to read ancient books, especially when he found out that his talisman stone was the Heaven's Inquisition stone. He put in a lot of effort to understand God Buzhou, but he couldn't find anything about it. Where did Shangguan Zhao Rong see it from? She continued, "This is the place where God Buzhou stood. The coiling dragon snake is extinct in other places, but it has been passed down in Western Zhou." Hearing up to here, Zhang Xiu was even more shocked. The people here simply call this snake the stone puppet. Although it's hard to find, there must be some in this mountain range. As long as we spend some time looking for it, we'll definitely find it. Zhang Xiu's eyes darkened. This didn't sound like something Shangguan Zhao Rong would say. If she knew, she would have said it a few days ago. Although Shangguan Zhao Rong's explanation was flawless, Zhang Xiu's heart was already filled with doubts. To be able to understand all of this, it could only be the goddess who had inherited this place. After that, Zhang Xiu recuperated in the cave while Shangguan Zhao Rong would go out and hunt some game from time to time. She was reluctant to kill the game, or rather, she couldn't bear to kill it. It was Zhang Xiu who dragged his sick body and cleaned it up. Then, he would use a sword to roast it over the fire. His days were quite easy. After several days of not being able to find Zhang Xiu's whereabouts, Western Zhou and Daliang gradually calmed down. After all, his life artifact had been shattered and he had cast a large-scale spell, so the probability of him surviving was very low. Moreover, it was the end of the year, so it seemed that the matter would be over soon. In a secret prison in the imperial palace, it was not shabby, but rather simple. It had always been used by the Western Zhou emperors to imprison the members of the royal family. The Crown Prince of Western Zhou was imprisoned here. Every day, he had nothing to do except to enjoy the snowy scenery and occasionally paint. However, he was always concerned about the situation outside. Unfortunately, ever since he was imprisoned here, he could no longer hear about what was happening outside. Being imprisoned was not the worst thing. Because he had informed the Qianqing school, the Emperor of Western Zhou regarded him as a betrayal of Western Zhou. As the first heir to the throne, he had lost his qualification. After being the crown prince for so many years, he still could not ascend to the throne. He believed that he must be in pain. The tightly shut door was opened by someone. It had been a long time, but he seemed to turn a deaf ear to it. He was still working on his snow painting. The person who came in was a prince, followed by a group of palace maids and palace maids. "Brother!" The crown prince of Western Zhou looked up. When he saw who it was, his expression did not change. "Why are you here?" The other party bowed deeply to the crown prince and stood up after a while. Looking at his brother who had always been at odds with him, the crown prince of Western Zhou was disgusted with his hypocrisy. The other party said, "I'm here to apologize to you. I didn't know that father would pass the position of crown prince to me." The crown prince of Western Zhou's paintbrush was suspended in the air. A trace of bitterness and unwillingness flashed across his eyes. How was this an apology? He was clearly here to show off. However, he soon felt relieved. He did not care about the consequences. He was only annoyed that he did not send the letter. However, now that he was the crown prince and ascended to the throne in the future, his life would be even more miserable. He said, "Zhou Jinglang, you're apologizing to me hypocritically. Father has the final say on who should sit on the throne of Western Zhou. It is not destined that the throne will be mine." Zhou Jinglang said, "Brother, you've misunderstood. All these years, I have always respected you. I also think that you are the most qualified to inherit the throne in the future." The former crown prince Zhou Jingrui said, "Do you have anything else to say? If not, please go back." Zhou Jinglang said, "Brother, don't you care about the outside world?" Speaking of this, Zhou Jingrui was indeed quite concerned. "If you ask, will you tell me?" Zhou Jinglang said, "There's nothing to hide. It's all in the past." Back then, Liang's envoy came and asked father to hand over the murderer. You also know that Western Zhou could not withstand the 2 years of war. Liang's situation was even worse. They did not want to continue the war. Therefore, Jiang Xiu had to die. Hearing this, Zhou Jingrui's heart tightened. Under the siege of everyone, Jiang Xiu used a spell in the end. As expected of a disciple of the Qianqing school. Even though he was already crippled, the power of the spell was astonishing. Not only did it destroy more than half of the palace, but almost all of father's hidden moon guards were buried with him. Even the leader of the hidden moon guards was seriously injured in order to save father. Zhou Jingrui asked, "What about immortal Jiang?" Zhou Jinglang said, "He probably had no way to survive. At that time, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight." Zhou Jingrui's entire body went limp. When he went to visit Jiang Xiu, he wanted to save him. Being able to befriend him all stemmed from his admiration for him. He did not expect that he would end up harming Jiang Xiu. He felt extremely vexed and guilty. "Immortal Jiang, it was I, Zhou Jingrui, who harmed you." Zhou Jinglang said, "Father has already issued a gag order on this matter. You also know that the other party is a disciple of the Qianqing school. If such a sect were to be angered, Western Zhou would not be able to withstand it. Of course, the news would be sealed. I'm afraid brother will have to spend the rest of his life here." The reason the letter was blocked that day was because Zhou Jinglang had arranged for someone to stay by Zhou Jingrui's side. Zhou Jinglang saw the opportunity and activated his own chess piece to intercept the letter. He then reported it to the Western Zhou Emperor. Zhou Jingrui clenched his fists in anger. One misstep, and he became a prisoner. "Zhou Jinglang, do you think you can sit back and relax from now on? If the people of the Qianqing school can't wait for immortal Jiang to return to the sect, they will definitely send someone to investigate. Do you think we can keep this under wraps forever? Zhou Jinglang said, would the Qianqing school care about a disciple whose life artifact is broken? Even if the people of the Qianqing school come, we can just say that he has already left to find a way to repair his life artifact. Even if the Qianqing school is suspicious, it won't be enough to make them fight. Zhou Jingrui's heart sank. It was true. Even if the people of the Qianqing school came, Zhou Jinglang could say whatever he wanted. What's more, Western Zhou and Zhang Xiu had no grudges. The people of the Qianqing school would never suspect them of murdering Zhang Xiu. Humph, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall. Zhou Jinglang was stunned. The only person who can leak this secret is you. Are you forcing father to kill you? You. Zhou Jingrui was shocked. After all, he and the emperor of Western Zhou were father and son. However, under Zhou Jinglong's instigation, the emperor might really kill him. You are so despicable. Ha ha ha. Zhou Jinglang laughed. History is written by the victors. You are too ignorant and stupid to say that I am despicable. Zhou Jingrui was right. Due to the end of the year, the matter of the Sky Motion Sect's relocation had been put on hold for a while. However, everything had to be done. However, there were people who wanted to change the outcome. The chief disciple, Shan Kuan, summoned a disciple and sent him to Western Zhou to bring Zhang Xiu back to the sect. There was no other reason. It was because all the disciples knew that Zhang Xiu was Zhang Luoxia, the former head of the Qianqing school. Since they knew where he was at the end of the year, how could they not invite him back to the sect? In particular, after the sect's relocation was hindered, the Ji Dao sect turned their attention to the fake Zhang Luoxia that he had created. If the two sect heads both thought that moving the sect was the best choice, then no matter how much the disciples objected, they could only obey. At the same time, Shangguan Zhaorong had been looking for the coiled flying dragon snake in the mountains for 5 days. This is already the 8th one you have caught. Shangguan Zhaorong said, the bloodline of the coiled flying dragon snake has been passed down for a long time. It has already given birth to various bloodlines. Young master, look, the coiled flying dragon snakes that Zhaorong caught are all different. After hearing her words, Zhang Xiu realized that each snake was not only different in size, but also in shape and scales. Then what are you planning to do? Shangguan Zhaorong said, refine the soul and regenerate the blood. Chapter 599. Soul Refining Atavism? Zhang Xiu stared at Shangguan Zhaorong's familiar countenance with astonishment. The Sky Motion sect could be considered one of the major sects in the immortal martial continent, and the secret arts they passed down were all shocking secret arts. But even so, it was still extremely difficult for them to comprehend these 4 words. Soul refinement, ancestral awakening. As long as it had anything to do with the soul, it would be considered a top-tier secret art. Shangguan Zhaorong said, yes, it's not difficult. Not difficult. Zhang Xiu seemed to be listening to a book. If soul refining atavism was not difficult, was there anything in the world that was difficult? Shangguan Zhaorong squatted on the ground and carefully looked at the coiling flying dragon snakes she caught, comparing them one by one. She was very serious and careful. Zhang Xiu was puzzled. Could it be that she could understand the evolution of living creatures? Or could it be that she understood the evolution of the coiling flying dragon snakes and knew how many branches there were? This was simply unimaginable. Only the last one is left, and it's almost done. After speaking, Shangguan Zhaorong told Zhang Xiu to rest well, and she once again left the cave. If there was someone who really knew how many types of stone snakes the coiling flying dragon snakes had as time passed, there was probably only one person in the world who knew, and that was the goddess who appeared after the fall of God Buzhou. Are you no longer Zhaorong? Zhang Xiu sometimes felt that she was Zhaorong, but in some aspects, he felt that she was not Zhaorong. Really, he was already confused. However, Zhang Xiu felt that it was not too difficult to confirm this matter. As long as... It was just that this method was a bit shameless. However, although Jiang Xiu's body was weak, he was still able to complete this task. He did not need to rely on others, and these days, he had taken a lot of medicine to replenish his qi and blood. Poor Shangguan Zhaorong had no idea what her vicious young master was thinking. She was like a fairy shuttling through the mountains, looking for traces of stone snakes. That night, after Shangguan Zhaorong blocked the cave as much as possible with rocks, she lit a bonfire. According to the usual rhythm, everyone would wash up and sleep, but today was different. To be precise, Jiang Xiu was different today. Zhaorong. Shangguan Zhaorong was pure and innocent. Her limpid eyes gazed at Jiang Xiu. She could be described as beautiful and extremely moving. Jiang Xiu reached out and grabbed her slender, jade-like hand. Her small hand was soft and smooth, as white as jade. He had thought about it. If it was Zhaorong, then she would definitely be willing. But if she refused, then she was most likely not Zhaorong anymore. Young master. Shangguan Zhaorong saw Jiang Xiu's fiery eyes and was a little flustered. Her pretty face blushed and she shyly lowered her head, her long black eyelashes fluttering. Ah! Zhaorong's hand was gently pulled by Jiang Xiu. She was shy and was completely unprepared, so she was pulled into his embrace. Now, Zhaorong was pressed against Jiang Xiu's chest. She was as nervous as a little white rabbit, not daring to move. Her beautiful eyes were wide open, not knowing what to do. Then, she felt the devil's hand wrap around her back and hug her. Young master. Poor girl, her voice was trembling slightly. This feeling, Jiang Xiu felt that Zhaorong was completely different from the crazy Zhaorong from that night. It felt different. However, this was only the beginning. They needed to understand each other deeply and understand each other's depths before they could judge. Jiang Xiu reached out and lifted her sharp chin, raising her pretty face. Her face was already red and hot, and her eyes were unavoidably locked with Jiang Xiu's. In the quiet cave, the sound of her heartbeat could be heard clearly. You're very nervous. No, it's not. Then, it was already very obvious what Jiang Xiu wanted to do. The poor girl was like a helpless lamb. Jiang Xiu thought that she would resist or find some excuses, such as not feeling well, or that Jiang Xiu's body had not recovered yet, so it was not suitable for him to do that. But she didn't. The bonfire was burning brightly, warming up the air above. However, there were some noises that shouldn't be made in the quiet night, causing people to blush. This was the most beautiful movement of the night. At first, it was gentle and warm, but gradually, it became like a storm. Jiang Xiu was very happy, and he was so excited that he couldn't control himself. Finally, the warhorse galloped and soared into the sky. After a long time, the warm cave gradually returned to tranquility, and only the flames in the bonfire made a crackling sound. It was extremely quiet and miraculous. Jiang Xiu looked at the rock opposite him. Shangguan Zhaorong's perfect body was illuminated by the flames on the rock, moving and graceful. He lowered his head and met Shangguan Zhaorong's complicated gaze. When their eyes met, her face heated up and she immediately turned her head away. Shangguan Zhaorong's beautiful hair was messy, and her forehead and cheeks were covered with fine beads of sweat. It seemed to be caused by the heat of the bonfire. Her skin was as smooth as jade, perfect and flawless. Sister Zhaorong was afraid that he would do that again, so she pulled Jiang Xiu's brocade robe and covered her beautiful body. She had Jiang Xiu's scent on it. Zhaorong is tired, and wants to sleep, Jiang Xiu responded. Since she did not refuse, it should be Zhaorong. He let out a sigh of relief, but his mind kept replaying the scene of Shangguan Zhaorong falling into the water. He thought that it might be a shadow in her heart. When she woke up again, the fire beside her had been extinguished, and the sun shone through the cracks in the rock. Shangguan Zhaorong got up, but found that Jiang Xiu was not there. Her heart was startled, and she hurried out of the cave to see him stretching his muscles and bones. Young master, your body hasn't recovered yet, why did you get up? Jiang Xiu said. I'm much better. I'm moving around, or else I'll get rusty. Shangguan Zhao Rong's face was slightly red. She thought, did you not exercise enough? There's some meat and food inside. Young master, please eat. Zhao Rong will go look for the last type of stone snake. Zhang Xiu nodded slightly. On this day, the streets were noisy. The Western Zhou Emperor and his trusted Crown Prince Zhou Jinglang, as well as a group of civil and military officials, came to the imperial city to welcome a guest from afar. This person came on a flying boat. I didn't expect Tianqing School to send someone here so soon. Could it be that someone spread the news? The Western Zhou Emperor's face was a little pale. He did not only point at Zhou Jingrui, but who else could it be in Western Zhou? But he was already imprisoned, so there was no way he could send the letter out of Western Zhou City. However, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Zhou Jinglang. His expression changed as he said, Imperial brother, you don't have to go that far. Informing the Tianqing sect will bring disaster to our Western Zhou. The Western Zhou Emperor's face turned even uglier. When did he ever consider Western Zhou? If he did, he wouldn't have sent the letter to Tianqing School. Fortunately, my son, you're alert. Otherwise, Western Zhou would have suffered from Tianqing School's revenge. Brother, could it be? The Western Zhou Emperor said. He must be dissatisfied. I removed him from the position of Crown Prince, and he is even more dissatisfied with being trapped in the cold palace. This is his desperate counterattack. Zhou Jinglong's expression changed drastically. I didn't expect brother to be such a person. Father, he is still my brother. Men, go and restrain Zhou Jingrui immediately. While they were talking, the immortal from the Tianqing sect had already descended from the sky. Of course, the person who came to Western Zhou to summon Zhang Xiu back to the sect was not an elder or a peak master. An ordinary true disciple was already showing enough respect. It was Wang Chen from the swordsmanship-seeking peak. The Western Zhou Emperor, together with a group of people, greets the great immortal from Tianqing School. Wang Chen said, forget it. The Western Zhou Emperor hurriedly led the great immortal into the palace. Wang Chen said, I'm here to bring Senior Jiang back. The end of the year is just around the corner. Senior Jiang has been recuperating for a while after being injured. It's better to go back and recuperate. Are you talking about great immortal Jiang? Wang Chen said, yes. The Western Zhou Emperor said, then you've come at a bad time. Great immortal Jiang has already left Western Zhou. Left. Wang Chen had traveled thousands of miles to come here, yet Zhang Xiu wasn't present. Wouldn't that mean that he had made a wasted trip? After all, it was his mission to bring Zhang Xiu back. Where did my senior Jiang go? The Western Zhou Emperor smiled bitterly and said, Great immortal Jiang, how can I ask where he went? Just then, someone hurriedly came in and whispered into the Western Zhou Emperor's ear, Zhou Jingrui escaped. What? The Western Zhou Emperor's eyes widened. Chapter 600. The Emperor of Western Zhou felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Zhou Jingrui had escaped. If Zhou Jingrui appeared in front of the exalted immortal of Tianqing School and told him the truth, then the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, the Emperor's face turned completely pale, and his hands and feet turned cold as ice. As a true disciple, Wang Chen's knowledge was certainly not ordinary. However, the Emperor of Western Zhou thought that Wang Chen had absolutely no reason to doubt him. However, the Emperor of Western Zhou did not expect the Tianqing School to be so complicated. Before coming here, there had been disagreement within the sect about who to choose. In the end, Elder Q-Sword decided on his disciple, Wang Chen. Elder Q-Sword had warned him that the Ji Dao sect might threaten Zhang Xiu's life, so Zhang Xiu might avoid meeting him. Therefore, when he heard that Zhang Xiu had left, his first reaction was that he had made a wasted trip. However, he quickly realized that Zhang Xiu might have asked the Emperor of Western Zhou to send him away. Moreover, when he saw the Emperor of Western Zhou's nervous expression, he was even more certain that the Emperor of Western Zhou wanted him to leave as soon as possible. He was even more certain that the Emperor of Western Zhou wanted to send him away. Therefore, he said, "I'm tired from rushing all the way here. Could I trouble the Emperor of Western Zhou to arrange a place for me to rest?" Ah! The Emperor of Western Zhou and Zhou Jinlong's expressions changed. "Yes, yes, yes." The Emperor of Western Zhou said, "Look at me. Quickly arrange a place for the exalted immortal to rest. Also, prepare a banquet to welcome him." While dealing with the exalted immortal of Qianqing School, the Emperor of Western Zhou and the new Crown Prince's legs were about to give out. The exalted immortal was in the palace, and so was Zhou Jingrui. This was a great opportunity for them to meet. "Pass down my decree. If you see the former Crown Prince, kill him without mercy." A new round of search began in the imperial city. Most of them were searching the area around the Cold Palace. There were patrols everywhere in the imperial city, and only the Cold Palace was relatively weak. They believed that Zhou Jingrui was still in the Cold Palace area. At this moment, Zhou Jingrui was actually still in the Cold Palace, hiding in the well in the Cold Palace. Although his location was very remote, it was a little close to the streets outside. Usually, he would not hear any sound, but today's movement was a little loud. He thought about it and thought that the only possibility was that someone from the Qianqing School had come, so he took the risk and hid in the well to create the illusion that he had escaped. When Zhou Jingrui saw the soldiers begin their search, he knew that his guess was right. The Shangxian from Qianqing School had indeed come. He had never really thought of betraying Western Zhou, but he was unwilling to be trapped here forever. He wanted to escape from the imperial city. Even if he could not become the emperor, he did not want to be a prisoner forever. At least ordinary people could still have freedom. "Did you find it? There's nothing here. Try again. His Majesty has ordered that if you find the former Crown Prince, kill him without mercy." The guards' voices came from time to time. Hiding in the well, Zhou Jingrui felt very miserable. His father really regarded him as a traitor of Western Zhou. After the crowd left, Zhou Jingrui began to emerge. He had been planning for a long time in his mind for this day. Finally, it came in handy. He had been planning in his mind for a long time about which way to go and how to go. It was like playing a game. He had played one level after another countless times. After he climbed over the wall, he ran outside. He remembered that the main gate was in the south. "Huh! It's the Crown Prince. I see the Crown Prince." Zhou Jingrui was shocked. He had been discovered at the first level and had run away. Little did he know that the Crown Prince's IQ was not online. He actually wanted to escape from the main gate. However, he was still a little injured. He immediately knocked down a soldier who rushed up to him and snatched the long sword in his hand. He wanted to fight his way out of the encirclement. "Stop him. Don't let him go to the main hall. Kill him." Seeing that the guards who used to protect him wanted to kill him, Zhou Jingrui felt a chill in his heart. He wanted to explain to his father that he could give up being the Crown Prince, but he would never betray Western Zhou. The reason why he reported to Qianqing School last time was that he was not like his father who could not distinguish right from wrong. "Father!" Zhou Jingrui shouted and decided to kill his way to the main hall. The Crown Prince had been raised as the Crown Prince since he was a child. He was also taught cultivation by the state preceptor. His cultivation was infinitely close to that of a divine immortal. "Get out of my way. Those who stand in my way will die." He was also in a killing frenzy. "Stop him, stop him." Zhou Jingrui flew up to the roof and rushed to the main hall. The guards also flew up to the roof to chase after him. For a moment, there was chaos. Wang Chen's hearing was very good. He just sat down and heard the shouting in the distance. Although he did not say anything, he knew that something had happened. "Father!" The Emperor of Western Zhou did not expect his son to kill his way to the main hall while covered in blood. He screamed in horror, "Kill him, kill him!" Zhou Jingrui could not believe it. "Father! Kill him!" The Western Zhou Emperor's face was trembling. "Wait!" Wang Chen said. However, the guards also knew what was going on. How could they dare to hesitate? Just as they were about to attack Zhou Jingrui, Wang Chen flicked his sleeve and the dozen or so guards surrounding Zhou Jingrui were blown away by the wind. The Qianqing school's disciples did not make a move, but when they did, they would shock everyone. Did you take my words for granted? The Western Zhou Emperor and the new Crown Prince were stunned. No one dared to go forward. Wang Chen said, "When I came here, I heard that the former Crown Prince invited a mighty immortal from Qianqing School into the palace as a guest. You should be the former Crown Prince." He was still wearing the former Crown Prince's ornament. "Yes." Wang Chen said, "Then, what about the mighty immortal from Qianqing School?" Everyone from Western Zhou present felt their legs tremble. The Western Zhou Emperor's eyes widened and his pupils dilated. If Zhou Jingrui said that they killed Jiang Xiu, Western Zhou's fate would be unthinkable. "Father, I've never betrayed Western Zhou. Why don't you believe me? Why do you want to kill me?" The Western Zhou Emperor stared at him but did not say a word. Zhou Jingrui used his sword to push himself up from the ground. Blood flowed continuously from his wound. Some things are wrong. Don't use the so-called righteousness of the country to force your wrong decisions on the innocent. Unfilial son. The Western Zhou Emperor roared. Are you lecturing me? Don't forget that your imperial mother and your younger sister are still under our control. You dare to speak nonsense? Think about the consequences. Zhou Jingrui could not believe that his father would threaten him with the lives of his mother and sister. He was in despair, completely in despair. You forced my hand. Zhou Jingrui thought of Jiang Xiu's death and his father's cold-bloodedness. Besides, he wanted to turn defeat into victory. Otherwise, his mother and sister would suffer. Mighty immortal Jiang. Mighty immortal Jiang was killed by them. Boom! The Western Zhou people's minds exploded. What? Wang Chen cried out in shock. Bastard! The Western Zhou Emperor shouted, Mighty immortal, you must not listen to this unfilial son's nonsense. He wanted to usurp the throne, but I saw through him. How dare he slander Western Zhou and use the Qianqing school to avenge him? He deserves to be punished. Zhou Jingrui said, Mighty immortal, everything I said is true. The two of them began to quarrel. Wang Chen listened for a while. Sometimes, people were very subjective. They were more willing to believe what they wanted to believe. He did not believe that Western Zhou would kill Jiang Xiu for no reason. He also did not believe that a small country like Western Zhou would dare to kill a disciple of the Qianqing school. You said that we killed mighty immortal Jiang, but you have no evidence. This is pure slander. Did you see it with your own eyes? Zhou Jingrui was an honest person. He really did not see it. When these people surrounded Jiang Xiu, he was already locked up. He could not answer for a while. You have nothing to say? Mighty immortal, you saw it too. This man is ambitious. He wanted to use the Qianqing school as a tool. He is extremely vicious and unforgivable. Wang Chen and Zhou Jingrui were speechless. They believed the Western Zhou Emperor's words even more. After failing to usurp the throne, he came up with such a despicable plan. This is Western Zhou's national affairs. I'm not in a position to interfere. Zhou Jingrui shouted, Mighty immortal, you are muddle-headed. Your fellow disciples are being persecuted for no reason, and you are not doing anything. How dare you? Wang Chen was furious. This dethroned crown prince dared to criticize him. Come on, take Zhou Jingrui away and behead him. A voice sounded, Western Zhou Emperor, do you think everything will be fine if you behead him? Chapter 601. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man walking slowly towards them. His attitude was languid, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. However, the terrifying aura he exuded made it seem as if he was the ruler of the world. When he walked closer and the Western Zhou imperial family members saw his face clearly, they felt as if their brains were about to explode. How is this possible? Their faces were as white as a sheet and their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. They were so frightened that cold sweat dripped down their foreheads as if they had seen a ghost. Wasn't this a ghost? No, it was even more terrifying than a ghost. Senior brother Zhang. Immortal Zhang. The man walking slowly towards them was none other than Zhang Xiu, who had escaped with his life. No, no. The Western Zhou Emperor shook his head in horror. He couldn't believe it. Aren't you dead? Aren't you dead? However, reality told him that he wasn't. Zhang Xiu was still alive and standing right in front of him. No one can cast a spell after their natal divine artifact is broken and still be alive. At that time, you were already bleeding profusely. The Western Zhou Emperor complained bitterly. You're still alive? Why aren't you dead? Zhou Jinglang was so frightened that he stood rooted to the spot. He knew that he was done for. He was done for. He might not even be able to keep his life, let alone his position as the crown prince. Kill him, kill him. The Western Zhou Emperor had completely lost his mind. If he didn't kill Zhang Xiu, he would be the one to die. If he killed Zhang Xiu first, he still had a chance. However, the guards standing by the side had always obeyed his orders. This time, however, they stood there unmoving, as if they hadn't heard him and were indifferent. Kill him, kill him. Seeing that the guard commander didn't move, the Western Zhou Emperor rushed over and grabbed his arms. How dare you defy my decree? How dare you defy my decree? The guard commander looked at the Emperor of Western Zhou as if he was looking at a madman. His eyes were filled with pity. Regardless of Zhang Xiu's current situation, don't forget that the successor disciple of Qianqing School is here. If you make a move now, it's like making the entire Western Zhou an enemy of Qianqing School. Do you think that Qianqing School is like Daliang? Even the whole country may not be able to kill a disciple of Qianqing School standing here. He had just promised that whoever made a move would die on the spot. Furthermore, it would be foolish to listen to an emperor who was walking towards the end of the world. You want to kill me? You. Zhang Xiu slowly walked to the front of the hall. The Emperor of Western Zhou looked at the man in front of him and felt extremely terrified. Zhang Xiu's appearance was like a talisman that claimed his life. Senior brother Zhang, what's going on? Wang Chen asked from the side. At this moment, he was also feeling a little embarrassed. His heart was filled with anger. The Emperor of Western Zhou had actually deceived him, and he had actually fallen for it. Zhang Xiu said, "This person insulted Qianqing School and tried to murder me." What? Wang Chen was furious. He was certain that Zhang Xiu was Zhang Luoxia, the former headmaster of Qianqing School. A mere emperor of Western Zhou dared to insult Qianqing School. He was courting death. How dare you insult Qianqing School and try to murder a disciple of Qianqing School? Wang Chen had been deceived and felt that his intelligence had been insulted. Moreover, this person had insulted Qianqing School and tried to murder him. This made him even angrier. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he already had the intention to kill. No, no. Immortal Zhang, it was an unintentional mistake. I didn't do it on purpose. The Emperor of Western Zhou knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhang Xiu. Tears and snot were streaming down his face. Please spare me, spare me. The people of Western Zhou will never dare to disrespect you again. Zhang Xiu snorted coldly. What do you take Qianqing School for? Of course, those who insult Qianqing School will be exterminated. Ah. Everyone in the Western Zhou royal family was terrified. In reality, Zhang Xiu's methods when he was in power were not limited to exterminating clans and even countries that opposed Qianqing School. This time, he took into account that this was the remains of God Buzhou and showed them some mercy. No, you can't kill the Zhou family. We are the descendants of God Buzhou. I can't. Wang Chen was also angered by this old man. He raised his finger and a ray of sword light shot towards him. He said coldly, "Do you think I can?" The powerful ray of sword light sent him flying and nailed him to the pillar. In front of the true disciples of Qianqing School, he was only at this level. The emperor of Western Zhou's cultivation was not weak. At the very least, he was a celestial immortal. However, the current situation had caused him to lose his composure. He was nailed to the pillar and struggled in pain. Blood flowed down the pillar carved with dragons. You, he pointed at Zhang Xiu. His eyes were filled with resentment, annoyance, and confusion. But most of all, regret. A single mistake could lead to everlasting regret. He finally looked at his son, the former crown prince, who was covered in wounds because of his own persecution. If he had listened to him and not provoked Zhang Xiu and not made things difficult for Zhang Xiu, none of this would have happened. You're right, Jing Rui. The Qianqing school is not something that we, a small mortal country, can afford to offend. The consequences are not something we can bear. Father. The emperor of Western Zhou's head lost its support and fell to the ground. His life was cut off. All the members of the royal family and the civil and military officials cried out. Only the persecuted prince, Zhou Jingrui, still remembered their old friendship and cried out in grief. Why? You always don't believe me. You're always being instigated. The emperor had collapsed. Logically speaking, the crowd should have bowed their heads and wailed. However, everyone stood still and drew a clear line with the dead emperor of Western Zhou. The atmosphere in the hall was very solemn. The entire dynasty was waiting for the Qianqing school's immortal to punish them. The second culprit was undoubtedly the new crown prince, Zhou Jinglang. He really wanted to escape. He felt that he was still young and had plenty of opportunities. However, with the heavenly motion sex exalted immortal in front of him, how could he escape under his nose? Zhang Xiu asked, "Are you all right?" Zhou Jingrui shook his head. I'm fine." Zhang Xiu pointed at the throne in the hall and said to him, "Go over there and sit on it. Other than your mother and sister, the royal family will not leave anyone alive. Send troops to attack Daliang. If Daliang is not destroyed, the war will never stop." Yes. Zhou Jingrui also longed for the throne. He walked past Zhou Jinlang. Just a few days ago, he had come to Zhou Jingrui to show off. However, in just a few days, his fate had been reversed. He had become the emperor, and his life was hanging by a thread. Zhou Jingrui dragged his bloodied body step by step to the front of the hall and sat down on the throne. The civil and military officials immediately shouted, "Long live the emperor!" Zhou Jingrui shouted, "Rise!" Traitor Zhou Jinlang and the Western Zhou royal family attempted to murder the immortal of Qianqing school. Their crimes are unpardonable. They will be executed. Long live the emperor! The civil and military officials shouted again. Zhou Jinlang wanted to escape immediately, but the surrounding guards rushed up and slashed at him. After a series of screams, the new crown prince fell into a pool of blood. Meanwhile, the imperial guards moved randomly to capture the members of the imperial family, especially Zhou Jinglong's bloodline. Send troops to the border to attack Daliang. Fight to the death. Zhou Jingrui issued the order again. He understood what Zhang Xiu was doing. Back then, Zhang Xiu was humiliated at the peace talks between Western Zhou and Daliang. The two countries wanted to kill Zhang Xiu for the peace treaty. Now, he wanted both countries to fight to the death. When the time came, the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. The price of Daliang's death would not be good for Western Zhou. However, this was Zhang Xiu's revenge. This was the result he wanted. In the eyes of the immortals, mortals were just ants. Long live the emperor! This was the price to pay for offending the Qianqing sect. When the war between Western Zhou and Daliang was over and one of the countries was destroyed, no matter how many people were left in the victorious country, they would have to look up to the other country for survival. Many of the civil officials fainted on the spot. After the incident came to an end, Wang Chen said, "Senior brother Jiang, the sect master ordered you to return to the sect for the new year. He specially sent me to bring you back." "Return to the sect?" Zhang Xiu smiled and said, "The sect master really misses me. Since that's the case, I can't let him down. If he wants me to return, then so be it." That day, after the great change in Western Zhou, Jiang Xiu, Shangguan Zhaorong, and Wang Chen returned to the sect together. Jiang Xiu thought to himself. Those who wanted him to return to the sect probably had other plans, especially the one who wanted to assassinate the Ji Daozong. They were still waiting for him to find help. Chapter 602. The airship arrived at Qianqing School. On the surface, it looked the same as before, as if it would never change no matter how many years passed. Jiang Xiu gazed at the mountain range in front of him. The mountains were high, the palaces stood tall, and the scenery was the same. He couldn't let go of his feelings for this place. Although his face was still cold, his heart couldn't help but surge. I'm back. Ji Daozong, I'm back. In the main hall, Ji Daozong slowly turned around. He could feel that the person he had been waiting for had returned. A genius that he had forcibly placed on Zhang Luoxia's body. However, he had heard that when Jiang Xiu was dealing with the reincarnation palace, immortal King Fentian had destroyed his natal artifact. That was equivalent to destroying the foundation of his spiritual cultivation. Perhaps this person was a double-edged sword that could hurt both the enemy and himself. But now, he was no longer a threat. He's back. Madame Ji walked over from behind Ji Daozong. Jiang Xiu had killed 4 Tai Hua sect disciples in the ancient house. The assassins from the reincarnation palace had been hired by her sect. A disciple with a shattered natal artifact and a fake identity of Zhang Luoxia. I can't think of any use. He still owes the Tai Hua sect 4 blood debts. It's better to just kill him. Ji Daozong said, even a flower or a blade of grass has its uses. Moreover, those people all believe that he is Zhang Luoxia. This is enough. Even if they believe that he is Zhang Luoxia, he is still a cripple. Even his natal artifact was destroyed. In my opinion, Gu Deqian's lineage will be the first to not let him go. Now that they want him dead, I'm afraid that anyone can succeed. Ji Daozong said, if he dies, then it can only be considered his own fate. Sect Master Jiang is back. Please. Accompanied by Wang Chen, Jiang Xiu appeared in the main hall. Phoenixes would appear once every 500 years to gather the leaves of the parasol tree. They would bear all of their grudges without hesitation. They would throw themselves into the raging flames and burn themselves. Their bodies would undergo a painful cycle of reincarnation, and in the end, they would be reborn with a beautiful body. Who would have thought that after their rebirth, not only would their feathers become more plump, their voices would become clearer, and their bodies would become even more pristine. Greetings, sect leader. Ji Daozong looked at Jiang Xiu from head to toe. The person in front of him looked different from before. He seemed to be more handsome, but his expression was still indifferent and his eyes were still cold. Your complexion is not bad, much better than I expected. Their life-bound divine artifacts had been shattered, and their cultivations had been destroyed. Many people had been unable to recover from this setback, but Jiang Xiu was still so calm and collected. Even the Ji Daozong was secretly amazed by his strength of heart. Ji Daozong asked himself whether he would have the courage to continue living if he lost his cultivation. Little did they know that Jiang Xiu was so calm because he firmly believed that he would be able to cultivate it back. Coupled with his heaven-defying cultivation speed. On the other hand, Madame Ji's face was cold. Jiang Xiu had killed her Tai Hua sect's disciple. Of course, she wouldn't be happy about it. Jiang Xiu stopped in his ears, remaining calm and collected. Whether he was Zhang Luoxia or an ordinary disciple, he didn't have any problem with it. As long as it affected the interests of Qianqing School, Jiang Xiu would certainly protect it without hesitation. No matter who blocked his way, there was only one word: kill. He didn't care if it was the sect leader's wife's family. He would kill them all without hesitation. It's good that you're back. It's almost the end of the year. On the night of the New Year's Eve, I will make an important announcement, which is to move the sect. When the time comes, I want you to stand out and support me, Ji Daozong said bluntly. Jiang Xiu's eyes were still indifferent, which made Ji Daozong very uncomfortable. This little disciple had lost his cultivation and talent, but he was still so arrogant. "Do you remember it?" Zhang Xiu didn't answer. Ji Daozong said, "If this matter succeeds, I can guarantee your safety. Gu Duqian and the people of Taihua sect won't kill you." Hearing this, Zhang Xiu smiled and bowed with his arms crossed. Ji Daozong nodded with satisfaction. He believed that Zhang Xiu was a smart person and knew what to do. If he wanted to live, he could only obediently follow orders. After standing up straight, Zhang Xiu said, "Nothing, I'll take my leave." Ji Daozong nodded, but when Zhang Xiu walked to the door of the hall, he suddenly remembered something that had been bothering him for a long time. Some things, when everyone believed it, even he, the creator, was a little confused. When you were chased by the reincarnation palace, why did the bitter retrograde leaf save you? He knew everything about Zhang Luoxia and knew that Zhang Luoxia knew the bitter retrograde leaf. Although he didn't know their relationship, the retrograde leaf rushed thousands of miles to save Zhang Xiu. This made him very confused. The only explanation for this matter was that Zhang Xiu was Zhang Luoxia, but he knew that Zhang Xiu was clearly not Zhang Luoxia. Zhang Xiu said, "When I was in Lingzhou, I had some interactions with the retrograde leaf. At that time, I hadn't entered Tianqing school yet. The bitter state was a place of bitter cold, and the people there cultivated very strangely. Almost no one left the bitter state. Except for the retrograde leaf, the master of the bitter state, who had some reputation, most people were not well known. Naturally, people looked down on them, and Ji Daozong would definitely not take the retrograde leaf seriously." "Is that so?" Ji Daozong was not very satisfied with Zhang Xiu's explanation. "Just because you had some wrong interactions, he could rush to save you." Zhang Xiu said, "Of course, he was betrayed by his disciple. It was I who helped him a lot." "Oh, I see." The retrograde leaf, who had once been in the bitter state, also disappeared for a period of time. Ji Daozong waved his hand and said, "Go down. Remember what I told you. You are a smart person." Zhang Xiu returned to his residence. Only when he arrived did he know that Li Chong and the two maidservants had returned. Moreover, they had already dressed up in a festive manner. Xiao Yu and Wang Xinya were pestering Shangguan Zhao Rong and chattering endlessly. The current Shangguan Zhao Rong was no different from the previous Shangguan Zhao Rong. She knew the situation here like the back of her hand, and she knew everything clearly. "Young master." Zhang Xiu knew that in these few days, many people in the sect would pay attention to him. His every move would be watched, especially Ji Daozong, who would definitely pay attention to which elders would come to find him. In fact, the situation in the sect was unstable, mainly caused by the move of the sect. Many forces affiliated with the Tianqing school had left. Some sought independence, some leaned towards Taihua sect, and some found another backer. This caused the resources and income of the sect to be greatly affected. Although the Tianqing school was big, over the years, Ji Daozong alone had taken away a large part of it, causing the resources of many disciples in the sect to be deducted. There was a saying that the heavens do not lack hungry soldiers. No matter how proud a sect was, once such a situation occurred, it would be fatal. However, there were people who were blind and deaf. They could not see or hear, because the Tianqing school was not the most important thing to him. Ji Daozong wholeheartedly thought that as long as he could cultivate to the immortal emperor realm, what could he not want? However, the people below would not think so. Their cultivation speed would be slowed down. Without resources available, it would cause dissatisfaction. When the dissatisfaction continued to a certain extent, it was bound to explode. Li Chong said, "Young master, many places outside no longer give offerings to the Tianqing school. Our resources this month are less than half of the usual. Those who didn't receive them in the past few months can't receive them anymore." Li Chong was also one of the dissatisfied. If he couldn't receive resources, his cultivation would also slow down. Zhang Xiu said, "N." He responded indifferently, but he didn't intend to ask for resources himself. Li Chong was slightly disappointed, but he didn't dare to show it and respectfully retreated. Shangguan Zhao Rong took the two girls to Qianqing City to buy New Year's goods. Of course, these things were done by the servants. Although the Qianqing school was a cultivation sect, it couldn't be separated from the secular world. At the end of the year, there would definitely be guests, so they couldn't have nothing to entertain. The next day, it was a sunny day. Xiao Yu and Wang Xinya lowered their heads and whispered timidly. Sister Zhao Rong slept in the young master's room last night. Wang Xinya's small face was a little hot, but she still endured her shyness and said, Really? Really. Last night, I went to look for Sister Zhao Rong several times, but she wasn't there. I ran outside the young master's room to eavesdrop. Sister Zhao Rong really served him in bed. Wang Xinya's face turned even redder. I really heard it. It's true. When I woke up in the morning, the bedding in Sister Zhao Rong's room was folded properly. Later, I saw Sister Zhao Rong come out of the young master's room in her clothes. She even blushed when she saw me. Wang Xinya said, I still don't believe it. Why don't you believe it? Let's go listen together tonight. Chapter 603. The two girls whispered to each other. They were at the age where they were the most curious about these things, especially since the young master was so cold and arrogant. How did Sister Zhao Rong win the young master's heart? Speaking of this, they were more excited than shy. Xiao Yu, don't you think that Sister Zhao Rong is a bit different from before? Wang Xinya said thoughtfully while paying attention to the young master's room. Different. That's right. She used to like white clothes, but now she likes very bright clothes, especially red. Also, her taste in food seems to have changed. I still remember her saying that she doesn't eat passion fruit because she can't stand the smell of oil inside. Last night, when I had dinner, she even gave me some to eat. Hearing Wang Xinya say this, Xiao Yu also said thoughtfully, Now that you mention it, I also remember that Sister Zhao Rong seems to have changed a lot. Although she's still her, she feels different. It can't be that her taste and personality changed after getting together with the young master, right? Wang Xinya said with a red face. I heard the old palace maids in the palace say that losing one's body won't change one's personality. It's only when one is pregnant that their taste and personality change. Xiao Yu's eyes suddenly widened. You're saying that Sister Zhao Rong is pregnant? Wang Xinya said, Stinky girl, don't talk nonsense. If the young master and Sister Zhao Rong hear this, see if they won't spank you. But I really feel that Sister Zhao Rong has changed a lot. The two thought that no one had heard their conversation, but they didn't know that Jiang Xiu was sitting behind the long table reading a book. Everything around him couldn't escape his eyes and nose, let alone their conversation. This caused Jiang Xiu's eyes to reveal a pondering expression. These two girls actually felt that Zhao Rong was different. Jiang Xiu also suspected that Zhao Rong wasn't the original Zhao Rong. But later, Zhao Rong didn't refuse to know each other's depth. Jiang Xiu dispelled this idea. If Zhao Rong wasn't Zhao Rong, how could she agree? She would definitely find a reason to refuse. But now, he hesitated again. Jiang Xiu was a very perceptive person, but he had neglected Zhao Rong before. He didn't pay attention to Zhao Rong's living habits. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been unable to make such a judgment. These two maidservants had lived with Zhao Rong for a long time, so they understood each other. If even they were suspicious, then there must be something strange. However, it was only strange, and there was no evidence to confirm it. He tried hard to recall Xie Ting's situation at that time. Unfortunately, the next time he saw Xie Ting after they broke up in the desert was when Xie Ting was burned at the stake. After Xie Ting returned to the Xie family from the desert, he wasn't sure if her family had similar problems. Young master. Shangguan Zhao Rong pushed open the door and walked in. Just like before, she had brewed some spirit tea. Jiang Xiu watched every step and every movement. Combined with the familiar scenery of the room and the sunlight shining in from the window, everything was the same as before. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Drink some tea. Her slender fingers picked up the teacup and handed it over. Zhang Xiu took a sip after receiving it. Even the taste of the tea hadn't changed much. Brewing spirit tea required a lot of knowledge, and it was easy to mix in a person's characteristics. Young master, Zhao Rong wants to go with those 2 maidservants to Skyline City again. Zhang Xiu nodded and said, "Go." Seeing Zhang Xiu agree, Shangguan Zhao Rong bowed slightly and then left. Zhang Xiu looked at her tall and beautiful back and his heart suddenly moved. He called out, "Xie Ting." Shangguan Zhao Rong paused and turned back to look at Zhang Xiu in shock. "Young master, who are you calling?" Her eyes were calm and there wasn't a trace of guilt, but her reaction was wrong. It had to be said that Shangguan Zhao Rong reacted very quickly. She didn't turn back after hearing her name, but rather she paused and looked back in shock. However, it was precisely this point that revealed a flaw. In a secret room, as long as Zhang Xiu made a slightly louder sound, under normal circumstances, she should have turned around immediately. However, she purposely avoided that shout, pausing for a moment before turning around. Zhang Xiu said, "Of course I'm calling you, Xie Ting." Shangguan Zhao Rong's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. "Young master, what are you saying?" "I am Zhao Rong, Shangguan Zhao Rong. How could Zhao Rong become Xie Ting?" The teacup in Zhang Xiu's hand released a faint fragrance. He looked straight at Shangguan Zhao Rong. "That's right, Xie Ting isn't your real name. It's just the name you borrowed from one of your bodies. You've borrowed too many times, so much so that you can't even remember how many times you've borrowed." "Young master, what are you talking about?" Zhang Xiu said, "You don't need to deny it. You and I know each other on Earth and we can be considered friends. Even if you admit it, I won't feel anything. After all, it's already happened. Moreover, you and I are friends and not enemies." Zhang Xiu had a good impression of the goddess and even more so of Zhao Rong. In Zhang Xiu's life, there weren't many women who were so sincere to him. Most of them were people who hurt him, so he cherished Zhao Rong, even if it was just her body. If she really was a goddess in front of him, he hoped that he could be honest with her. "I know you're a goddess. The fall of the Buzhou god was a goddess who was created by fate." Shangguan Zhao Rong laughed involuntarily. "Young master, you haven't even drunk any wine and you're already talking nonsense. How could Zhao Rong be a goddess? Zhao Rong is only your concubine maid." Zhang Xiu said, "If you're not a goddess, how could you know about the Heaven's Inquiry Stone Talisman? How could you know how to repair my life artifact? Also," he picked up the book in his hand, "you even marked out the wrong words on the Heaven's Inquiry Talisman that I wrote from memory." Shangguan Zhao Rong helplessly shook her head and lightly walked over. She gently leaned her delicate body against Zhang Xiu's chest and raised her head with a smile in her eyes. In order to find a way to repair young master's life artifact, Zhao Rong read through many ancient books, especially the Heaven's Inquiry Talisman. Zhao Rong put in a lot of effort. "It was from the description of the Buzhou god that I had the idea that the snake blood could repair young master's life artifact." Zhang Xiu did not speak. Shangguan Zhao Rong gently stood on her tiptoes and kissed Zhang Xiu's handsome face before floating away like a feather. "Zhao Rong will go down the mountain with them. Young master, don't think too much. Zhao Rong is Zhao Rong. Young master's Zhao Rong." Seeing Shangguan Zhao Rong happily leave, Zhang Xiu was once again confused. She did not admit it. If she was Xie Ting, they were already so close and they were friends, there was no need for her to deny it. Could it be that she was really Zhao Rong? Zhang Xiu lowered his head and looked at the book in his hand. The mistakes of the Heaven's Inquiry Talisman were all marked out and there were some annotations. He actually spent a lot of time on it, but his understanding was far less thorough than Shangguan Zhao Rong's. It was not that Zhang Xiu was arrogant and conceited, but did he think that his more than 3,000 years of talisman cultivation could not compare to a teenage girl? The more Shangguan Zhao Rong did not admit it, the more Zhang Xiu was suspicious. But since Shangguan Zhao Rong admitted it, then it was true. Zhang Xiu was also unreasonable. In short, Zhang Xiu already suspected that she was not Zhao Rong from the bottom of his heart. He began to face one thing seriously. In the ancient desert city, when the goddess descended on Xie, although Jiang Xiu's feelings at that time had changed, when she called him Big Brother Jiang, it seemed that they had known each other before. And Jiang Xiu knew that part of his memory was actually missing. This part of his memory might have something to do with the goddess. However, this was all Jiang Xiu's baseless guess. He was really in pain now. This part of his memory was also related to how he disappeared and how Cheng Lingsu used the Great Fate technique to destroy everything he had. He even felt that this missing memory was related to the conspiracy of the Ji Dao sect. In short, the missing part of his memory had already made Jiang Xiu's imagination run wild. He felt that the most important thing was to recover this part of his memory. Otherwise, he would always feel that he was not complete. He tried hard to recall. He remembered that the part of his memory before he lost it should be similar to the current situation of the Ji Dao sect. They should be studying the heavenly mirror, the only secret technique that could allow one to become an immortal emperor. Although he was very famous at that time and the Tianqing school was also very outstanding under his command, he was still not part of the top group of people in the immortal martial continent. He always wanted to become a divine emperor. Could it be related to the heavenly mirror? Chapter 604. The other party's eagerness exceeded Jiang Xiu's expectations. Not long after Shangguan Zhao Rong and the others left the mountain, someone sent a letter, and it was sent by a secretary. It was the same as the sacrificial talisman that Jiang Xiu used to contact Jian Yi. A line of words appeared on the blank paper. Meeting in Tianqing City. Jiang Xiu's first impression was that it was the person who asked him to meet before dawn. He must have noticed that several of his servant girls went to the Tianqing school to do New Year's goods. After his natal artifact was shattered and he lost all his spiritual power and could not cultivate, he had every reason to accompany those servant girls. Therefore, he set the time in Tianqing City. It had to be said that the other party was very bold. It was really dangerous to meet him as soon as he returned. However, the more dangerous it was, the safer it was. The Ji Dao sect did not expect him to be so bold. Jiang Xiu could not cast spells, and Li Chong did not know any secret techniques. Therefore, Jiang Xiu could not reply. If that person was waiting for him in Tianqing City, he might have waited in vain. After pondering for a moment, Jiang Xiu decided to go. He wanted to uncover the mystery of his amnesia and find his lost memories. During this period, the sect master changed, so of course he had to find out the whole story. Everyone said that he was dead. Since he was so sure that he was dead, how could they believe that he was still alive so easily? Jiang Xiu always thought that there was something fishy about this. Young master, Jiang Xiu said, there is nothing to do at home. Accompany me down the mountain to find those servant girls. Yes. Li Chong naturally did not dare to be rash. He muttered in his heart, this was not the young master's style at all. Could it be that the young master missed that servant girl Zhao Rong? When they took the flying boat and walked down the mountain, they saw 3 maids waiting for the big flying boat to set off. The Heaven Motion sect had a big flying boat that was specially used to go up and down the mountain. Just like the buses on Earth, it would come out when the time was up. For a flying boat, it only took a few minutes to go up and down the mountain. Xiao Yu's eyes were sharp. Sister Zhao Rong, look, it's young master. Li Chong controlled the flying boat and heard the sound above the big flying boat. There were many servants of the Tianqing school's disciples on the flying boat. When they saw Jiang Xiu and the true disciples on his body, they knelt down and saluted, greetings, Shangxian. This was Jiang Luoxia, an influential figure in the sect. The news of his life-bound divine artifact shattering had already spread throughout the sect. Zhao Rong Shangguan was shocked. Young master, why are you? Jiang Xiu said, I have nothing to do at home, so I'll go with you guys to Tianqing City and enjoy the New Year's atmosphere. Come on up. It would take a while for the big flying boat to set off. That's great. The other 2 young maidservants were extremely excited. This was definitely cool. Young master used a flying boat that only direct disciples could use to pick them up. Wasn't that cool? Some of the people at the side were stunned. Which servant would receive such treatment? Driving the flying boat to Tianqing City was only a matter of a few minutes. Soon, they arrived at Tianqing City. The city was bustling, and the New Year's atmosphere was everywhere. A few maidservants chattered endlessly beside Zhang Xiu, while Zhang Xiu was still cold. Li Chong followed beside him and didn't say anything. Zhang Xiu knew that the other party should know that he was here. As an immortal king, he naturally had this ability. As long as he found a quiet and deserted place, he should appear. You guys go ahead. I'll find a place to sit. Li Chong, you accompany them, Li Chong said. But young master. Zhang Xiu said, it's nearing the end of the year. Sky Travel City is filled with all sorts of people. The girls need someone to protect them. I'm wearing the clothes of a true disciple. Who would dare to touch me? If they really dared to touch my people, even you wouldn't be able to protect me. Li Chong only gave up after hearing Zhang Xiu's words. Zhang Xiu walked along the street, making it seem like an underground gang meeting. He paid attention to whether there was any signal from the other party. Then, he entered an alley. In this alley, when he was still a disciple of the Tianqing school, he would come here to get drunk every time he finished a life and death mission with his fellow disciples. Later, he was scolded by his master, so he didn't come again. This place was still the same. As soon as he reached the entrance of the alley, he could smell the fragrance of wine inside. As the saying goes, the fragrance of wine is not afraid of the depth of the alley. There was a small wine house in the innermost part, and the wine was the best. However, many people who didn't know the business weren't willing to go further in when they reached the entrance of the alley. Guests, how many? 1. Zhang Xiu asked, is there a private room? Yes. It was the end of the year. In fact, there weren't many people coming out to drink. Although there were many people on the street, compared to this, business was the worst. In the private room, Zhang Xiu was alone. As he expected, not long after, a figure passed through the opposite wall. The man covered in a long robe appeared in front of Zhang Xiu. Sect leader Zhang. Zhang Xiu said, I am not Zhang Luoxia. Please sit down. The other party said, it is indeed a pity that sect leader Zhang's natal artifact of the reincarnation palace is broken. Now that the reincarnation palace has become a rat on the street, it can be said that they deserve it. Zhang Xiu said, even if all the people of the reincarnation palace are killed, my natal artifact can't be repaired. The other party said, indeed, the Tai Hua sect is too bad. A dignified large sect actually asked for help from an assassin organization. Zhang Xiu said, you invited me here today to tell me this. The other party shook his head. Bringing up the old matter again, I want to ask sect leader Zhang for help. Zhang Xiu said, I am really not Zhang Luoxia. The other party obviously didn't believe him. I know sect leader Zhang never asks for help, but now that the sect is in a life and death situation, can sect leader Zhang bear to see the Tianqing school leave its home and decline? When going to a new place, one had to endure turmoil, conquer, and finally stand firm. This was the so-called period of pain. It was fine if one could recover after the pain, but the problem was that one could die after the pain. Zhang Xiu picked up the wine cup and drank slowly. The temperature of the wine was just right. I really can't help much. The other party said, what about the retrograde leaf? Zhang Xiu said, I can indeed contact him, but it may not be a problem to ask him to help me, but it is almost impossible to ask him to join forces to kill sect leader Ji. No immortal king was willing to fight to the death with others, unless they were forced to. Hearing Zhang Xiu's words, the other party fell silent. Perhaps if he thought about it from another perspective, he wouldn't fight to the death with others for a friend, especially if the other party was Ji Daozong. If he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. He stood up. You're leaving. The other party said somewhat angrily, since you don't agree, why are you still staying here? Zhang Xiu pushed the wine cup in front of the other party and filled his cup. Don't be anxious, sit down and talk slowly. With your strength, although there is a possibility of killing Ji Daozong, it is too small, and the risk is too great. This was obvious to everyone, and it was also the reason why Ji Daozong dared to act willfully. If we change people, we can change Ji Daozong's decision. Hearing this, the other party paused, then slowly turned around and looked at Jiang Xiu's face. At this moment, he felt that the person in front of him was Jiang Luoxia, so he couldn't help but sit down. Sect Master Jiang, what are your opinions? Jiang Xiu said, to kill a tiger, pull out its teeth first. What do you think is the reason why Sect Master Ji Daozong dares to be so tyrannical despite the opposition of so many elders? Humph, of course it's because he's relying on Tai Hua sect. Spineless, the dignified Qianqing school's sect master is actually hugging the thigh of an outer sect. Jiang Xiu's eyes turned cold, and a terrifying killing intent flashed through them. Yes, if Ji Daozong doesn't have Tai Hua sect support. How is that possible? Ji Daozong married a female disciple of Tai Hua sect. Suddenly, the other party paused. Sect Master Jiang is saying, Jiang Xiu said, we have to kill him, but the success rate is too low. However, if we want to kill Madame Ji, she's much weaker than Ji Daozong, and she'll definitely return to Tai Hua sect at the end of the year. Yes. The other party became agitated. Madame Ji is the core of everything between Ji Daozong and Tai Hua sect. If Madame Ji dies, then everything will be over. What a good move, taking drastic measures. Although Madame Ji Daozong, Jiang Na, was also an immortal king, she hadn't been one for long. Moreover, her comprehension of the Golden Core Dao wasn't high, so she wouldn't be a match for the Qianqing school's elders in a one-on-one fight, let alone a group attack. As long as the ambush was right, the chances of successfully killing her were very high. Without Tai Hua sect support, Ji Daozong would be a toothless tiger, and the matter of moving the sect would take a turn for the better. Chapter 605. After he left, Jiang Xiu didn't leave. Instead, he ordered some food. He only came to sit for a while and left after drinking a few cups of wine. If he really aroused suspicion, he would at least wait patiently for Shangguan Zhaorong and the others to finish shopping and return to the sect together. Moreover, it was rare for him to come here, so he naturally wanted to enjoy the atmosphere here. The owner of the shop had changed long ago, and the servant was no longer the previous owner. He probably didn't even know that the servant was the grandson of the previous owner. It was also possible that the owner had changed a long time ago. According to the traditions of the Xianwu continent, especially in Qingzhou, female disciples who joined the Qianqing school generally had to return to the sect after the end of the year. This was the same as returning to the mortal world to pay New Year's greetings to their parents. Although cultivators lived long lives, they still had to maintain relationships, especially Madame Ji's relationship with the Tai Hua sect. This was related to two sects, so she had to go back. Moreover, if Madame Ji wanted to appear close, she would probably return on the second or third day of the year. As the head of the Ji Dao sect, the second or third day of the year would be the days with the most visitors. He had to stay at the sect, so Madame Ji would be left alone and return to the sect alone. Moreover, she wouldn't guard against assassination. Who would have thought that someone would try to assassinate a female disciple of the Tai Hua sect, the wife of the Qianqing school's head? As long as they set up an ambush on her way back, the success rate might not be 100%, but it would at least be close to 90%. Jiang Xiu already had old grudges against the Tai Hua sect. In addition to the Samsara Hall incident, although the Samsara Hall became a target of scorn because of him, Jiang Xiu also paid a huge price for the destruction of his natal artifact. With new and old grudges added together, he wanted the Tai Hua sect to suffer. As the new year arrived, the Qianqing school was full of laughter. Every elder had a large number of disciples coming to celebrate the new year. Some outer and inner disciples also took advantage of the festival to build good relations with their senior apprentice brothers and sisters. Jiang Xiu was really a loner. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, no one came to pay New Year's greetings to Jiang Xiu. Since he didn't have a master, he didn't need to pay New Year's greetings to others. The courtyard could be said to be deserted. The only one who came was senior sister Qin Qing. However, He only came to sit for a while and then left. However, the girls got along well with the neighbors. There were still people from Divine Cultivator Peak who came to greet them, but they were all servants. However, it was still a little more lively. He thought that the first day of the new year would pass just like that, but Jiang Xiu neglected one thing, which was the Ji Daozong's original intention of bringing him back. In the afternoon, when the sun was still bright, the Ji Dao sect summoned Jiang Xiu. When he arrived at the main hall, he realized that all the elders were there as well. There was no habit of holding a big meeting on the first day of the year, but today was probably special. Although it was a banquet, the atmosphere was very oppressive, and the air was somewhat heavy. Sect leader Jiang is here. Ji Daozong had a smile on his face. To think that he kept calling him sect leader, but in his heart, he treated Jiang Xiu as an insignificant ant. Sect leader Jiang. The few elders were still very courteous. Jiang Xiu's eyes swept over, trying to find the person who was in contact with him. However, everyone's gaze was so calm and at ease that he didn't see any flaws. I wonder what instructions the sect leader has for summoning me? Ji Daozong said, I can't say that I'm giving instructions. I'm just asking sect leader Jiang to come over and ask for your opinion. Please give your instructions, sect leader. Ji Daozong had a tall and imposing figure. His hands were placed on his waist, and the beast feather cloak on his body made his body look very strong. It gave off a strong pressure, and the imposing manner of a sect leader was fully displayed. I can't say that I'm giving instructions. Sect leader Jiang is the previous sect leader. Now that we've decided to move the sect, we want to hear your opinion. Jiang Xiu thought to himself, you've already decided, so why are you still asking for my opinion? What a hypocrite. However, from these words, Jiang Xiu was sure that the elders should have agreed. Since they had already thought of a way to deal with the Ji Daozong, they should have just symbolically opposed it. In the end, they were still suppressed by the Ji Daozong's strength. Jiang Xiu felt that it was a pity that he hadn't come earlier. If he had, he would have been able to see who was going to make a move against the Ji Daozong. Since everyone has already decided, I naturally won't oppose it. Ha ha ha. Ji Daozong laughed heartily. Everyone heard it. Even sect leader Jiang doesn't oppose it. Disciplinary elder, Q-sword elder, you two shouldn't have any objections. Then this matter is settled. Disciplinary elder and Q-sword elder's faces were gloomy, and they sighed helplessly. They had hoped that Jiang Xiu would come out and oppose it. After all, he was Jiang Luoxia, and his foundation in the Qianqing school was much deeper than the Ji Daozong's. Sigh. They hadn't expected Jiang Xiu to agree so readily. Haha. Ji Daozong was very satisfied. Jiang Xiu, the chess piece that he had carefully buried, had finally played its proper role. If there's nothing else, sect leader, this disciple will take his leave first. He didn't want to be involved too much right now, so he planned to withdraw and leave. Ji Daozong nodded. This chess piece had been used up for the time being. Wait. When Jiang Xiu was about to walk out of the main hall, a woman's voice suddenly sounded. Everyone looked over and saw that the person who had spoken was Madame Ji, who was beside Ji Daozong. Jiang Xiu could only stop. Madam, what's the matter? Madame Ji slowly stood up, and the atmosphere in the hall changed. Jiang Xiu had killed 4 Taihua sect disciples in the ancient house, and the Taihua sect had even offered the reincarnation palace to kill him. Jiang Xiu had offended Madame Ji. You plan to leave just like that? Jiang Xiu said, what else can I do? Madame Ji's eyes narrowed slightly. Sect leader Jiang, you're so impressive. You killed 4 innocent Taihua sect disciples in the ancient house, and you plan to let it go just like that? Jiang Xiu said, Madame Ji, are you asking me as a Taihua sect disciple or as the wife of the Qianqing school sect leader? Is there a difference? Jiang Xiu said, of course there is a difference. If you ask me as a Taihua sect disciple, I won't answer. If you ask me as the wife of the Qianqing school sect leader, what is your position? You. Madame Ji didn't expect Jiang Xiu to have such a sharp tongue. Sect leader Jiang, you have a sharp tongue. Whether it's the Taihua sect or the Chenqing school, the two sects are brothers. You killed 4 Taihua sect disciples in public, and you don't know your crime? To put it lightly, you're destroying the relationship between the two sects, and to put it seriously, you're betraying the sect. Zhang Xiu said, the Taihua sect openly tried to take over my Taihua sect's territory. If I don't kill them, how will the Chenqing school's reputation be? Could it be that Madame Ji wants me to hand over the Chenqing school's territory to the Taihua sect? Madame Ji had always been an unpopular character in the Chenqing school. Everyone knew that she was ambitious, but no one dared to say it out loud. However, Zhang Xiu pointed it out on the spot. Many people in the hall were in an uproar. The law enforcement elder said, the law enforcement peak has already investigated the ancient house incident. That day, the Taihua sect did contact the ancient house royal house. Zhang Xiu killed 4 Taihua sect disciples. Not only was he not wrong, but he was also rewarded greatly. That's right. Several elders came out to support Madame Ji. Madame Ji was so angry that her face turned green. After all, this was the Chenqing sect. At this moment, Ji Daozong spoke up, this might just be a misunderstanding, but sect master Jiang is a bit too heavy-handed. Brother sects are in a small country. Is there a need to fight and kill people? Even if we give it to the Taihua sect, it's not a big deal. As soon as these words came out, all the elders present were speechless. They were completely disappointed in Ji Daozong. Madame Ji's face revealed a smug expression. Ji Daozong had already planned to move. What was the point of fighting over a city? It was futile. However, in the eyes of the elders, this was a matter of territory. They hadn't even decided to leave yet, and the other party had already come in and attacked them. This was an insult and a provocation to the Chenqing school. However, it's not a big mistake. Madam, what do you think we should do? Several elders wanted to speak, but could only give up. Ji Daozong's heart was already on the Taihua sect's side. I don't know either. It's still up to the sect leader to decide. I see, Madame Ji said. How about this? I'm going back to the Taihua sect tomorrow. Sect leader Jiang will come with me. When everyone heard this, they secretly cursed her for being so vicious. She knew that there was no way to execute Zhang Xiu in the Chenqing school, but she still wanted to take Zhang Xiu to the Taihua sect. Not to mention, Zhang Xiu had just killed 4 disciples of the Taihua sect. Who didn't know that Zhang Luoxia had a deadly feud with the Taihua sect? If Zhang Xiu went to the Taihua sect, he would definitely die. Sect leader, just as the law-enforcing elder was about to speak, Ji Daozong spoke first. All right, sect leader Jiang. Then you should accompany Madam to the Taihua sect and give an explanation. Don't worry, my father-in-law is a generous person. You're also a disciple of the Chenqing school. He won't make things difficult for you. Hell if he wouldn't. Sect leader. It's decided. Chapter 606. The Ji Daozong still needed to rely on the Taihua sect, so he didn't dare to disobey the madam. He didn't want to offend the Taihua sect and lose his biggest backer. The life of an insignificant disciple was nothing compared to his big plan. The main thing was that the madam was happy and the Taihua sect would be appeased. The elders present couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't want the Ji Daozong to trample on an ordinary disciple like this. Moreover, they thought that Zhang Xiu was Zhang Luoxia, the former sect leader. They didn't want to make things difficult for Zhang Xiu, but if he really went to the Taihua sect, they wouldn't let him do as he pleased. This time, he would definitely die. Go and prepare. Tomorrow, you will go to the Taihua sect with the madam. The Ji Daozong made the final decision, but his tone was understated. It was as if he was ordering an ordinary disciple. He didn't look like he was Zhang Luoxia at all. Madame Ji glanced at Zhang Xiu arrogantly. Seeing his angry face, she smiled coldly. She looked very proud. I like to see you hate me to death, but you can't do anything about it. Yes. Zhang Xiu replied. When he turned around and left, his eyes flashed with a trace of arrogance and ridicule, but he didn't stop walking. You don't know that the day you return to the Tai Hua sect will be the day you die. The number of people in the palace who want your life is more than you can imagine. Even if you were surrounded by several people, I'm afraid there would be no suspense in escaping. You brought me along, and I have to thank you for letting me see a good show. When Jiang Xiu walked out of the hall, he found that 2 disciples were following him. Jiang Xiu asked in surprise, "Why are you following me?" "He, senior brother Jiang, don't mind us. This is the madam's order. She wants us to accompany you. After all, we are leaving tomorrow. We don't want you to be delayed." Jiang Xiu's eyes turned cold. "You want to monitor me? Up to you." When Jiang Xiu returned to Divine Cultivator Peak, they followed him there. When Jiang Xiu entered his residence, they even reached out to close the door and locked it with a chain. Then, they used magic to seal the door and windows. "Young master, what's wrong?" Li Chang and the maidservants immediately became nervous. Jiang Xiu ignored him and walked into his room. Shangguan Zhao Rong also poked her head out of the room. Seeing this scene, she couldn't help but frown. "Your young master killed Tai Hua sect's disciples indiscriminately. Madam will bring him back to Tai Hua sect tomorrow to await trial." What? The whole Tianqing school knew about Jiang Xiu's case. Many people were secretly cheering for him to be killed. Even some elders were said to be happy. How could it be considered killing innocent people? They even had to take Jiang Xiu to the Tai Hua sect to be tried. Why? Our young master did it for the benefit of the sect and to protect the dignity of the sect. Li Chang and the 2 maidservants were very angry. "Don't be sullen." Some of the god elementalists and midgets on the god repairing mountain also gathered around and whispered to each other. "Sai, what dignity does the Tianqing school have now? It has long been ridden on by others. In order to protect the sect, it actually has to end up like this. Who would dare to do it in the future?" Many disciples were filled with righteous indignation and felt bitterly disappointed. However, no matter how angry or bitterly disappointed they were, there was nothing they could do. They could only swallow their anger. Jiang Xiu's servants were even angrier. "Young master." Jiang Xiu called them into the room. Usually, at the end of the year, he would let the servants go home. "Pack up and go back tomorrow." They were not people who would run away when their master encountered trouble, but their young master's words had always been done. It was not their turn to refute, but their eyes were filled with grievance and unwillingness. Li Chang and the 2 maidservants retreated, leaving Shangguan Zhao Rong to serve him. Jiang Xiu said, "You also go back tomorrow." Shangguan Zhao Rong was not so easy to get rid of. "How about letting Zhao Rong accompany you to Tai Hua sect?" Jiang Xiu said, "No need, it is inconvenient for you to follow me. Moreover, you have left Jialan for a long time. It is time to go back and visit your parents and relatives." But Zhao Rong is more worried about young master. Jiang Xiu came to the window. The sky outside was clear, but he was locked in the courtyard. His eyes were cold. "Don't worry, go home and have a good gathering with your family. If I return to the sect will inform you." Shangguan Zhao Rong said worriedly, "Young master killed 4 disciples in a row in Guchu and destroyed the reincarnation hall that Tai Hua sect hired. Tai Hua sect has lost face in this matter. They will not let young master off easily. Young master will be in danger." Jiang Xiu said, "So, it will be even more inconvenient for you to follow me." Shangguan Zhao Rong gently hugged Jiang Xiu from behind and softly sobbed. Jiang Xiu turned back, tears falling from her limpid eyes. "Zhao Rong wants to stay by young master's side. I don't want to be separated from young master." Jiang Xiu looked at the tear-stained face and suddenly hugged her. Zhao Rong's face was flustered. Only then did she know what young master wanted to do. She secretly cried out in her heart. She really met her nemesis. Her trick of pretending to be pitiful was no match for young master's trick of conquering her. "Young master," she whispered softly. It was unknown whether she was resisting or flirting. In broad daylight, she was so shy that she could not control herself. After a long time, she was panting. She was so tired that she could not even move her fingers. The two maidservants and Li Chong outside are still waiting. The blush on Zhao Rong's pretty face had just subsided when it came back again. She was so angry that her teeth itched. Hateful, hateful, hateful. You did it on purpose. The next morning, Zhang Xiu was awakened from his meditation by the sound of the door's chain being pulled. A disciple shouted at the door, "Senior Marshal Brother Zhang, Madam wants you to leave." Zhang Xi's return to the Tai Hua sect was extravagant. There was a huge flying boat accompanied by several smaller flying boats, which were filled with goods. These were the New Year's gifts that she brought back to her parents' home. Many disciples of the sect were stunned. "Madam, he's here." Zhang Xiu was brought onto the flying boat by someone. His cultivation was crippled, and he couldn't even fly in the air. Zhang Xi's eyes swept over. Today she had carefully dressed up. Her hair was tied up high, and the clothes on her body were made with a huge amount of money. The skirt was 2 to 3 meters long, and her aura was amazing. She just looked at Zhang Xiu indifferently and said coldly, "Why didn't you lock it up?" The people on the side were embarrassed. Zhang Xiu did not commit any crime, and only the law enforcement disciples had the right to lock people up. They did not have the right to do so. "All of you are deaf." "Yes." Several disciples had no choice but to lock Zhang Xiu with the iron chain. Zhang Xiu did not struggle or refute, but his eyes were cold. "Why are you not convinced?" Zhang Xiu coldly snorted and did not speak. This made Zhang Xi's eyes even colder and the veins on her forehead jumped. She really hated Zhang Xiu. Since Ji Daozong married her, she was superior and successful. Her Tai Hua sect was not to be blasphemed. However, Zhang Xiu first humiliated her junior, Zhang Xiaoyao, and also made her Tai Hua sect lose face because of the pursuit. "Let's go," she ordered coldly. "Let's go." Several accompanying disciples shouted. The Sky Motion sect and the Tai Hua sect were both located in the Qing province. The distance between the two sects wasn't too far. She would be able to reach the Sky Motion sect within the day. Moreover, she wanted to return to her sect to show off. Of course, she wouldn't go too fast. Otherwise, others wouldn't be able to see the flying boats and the resources she brought into the Tai Hua sect. Zhang Xiu sat on the deck indifferently and silently. He calculated in his heart that those people would choose to attack. The most likely place was the one between Tianqing School and Tai Hua sect. Whether it was the people from Tianqing School or Tai Hua sect, they would not be in a hurry. Of course, they would be a little closer. If they had to send someone to rescue, they would prefer to meet Tai Hua sect. They did not want to fight with their own sect. And Chonglu Mountain was the most likely place. A few hours later, they entered the territory where they stayed for a long time. Here, the sky was dark and it was drizzling. This kind of weather was very poetic, but Zhang Xi didn't like rainy days. Whenever it rained, her mood would become depressed. Especially when she looked at Zhang Xiu and saw that the latter was indifferent. She hoped that Zhang Xiu would be afraid. She hoped that he would kneel and beg for mercy. She hoped that he would struggle like a helpless ant. Only in this way could she relieve the hatred in her heart. She asked someone to bring a brush, ink, paper, and an inkstone. She drew a talisman and showed it to Zhang Xiu. "Do you recognize it? What kind of talisman is this?" "This is a thunder talisman. It's raining now. How do you think it will feel if it sticks to your body?" Chapter 607. Zhang Xiu stared at the talisman in her hand that exuded the aura of heavenly thunder. At this moment, because his body was drenched by the rain, once it touched his body, the consequences could be imagined. He would definitely be electrocuted to death. However, Zhang Xiu's eyes were smiling. "You seem to be very proud?" Zhang Xi said. "Proud? Am I?" However, she held the Thunder Talisman in her hand. As an immortal king, she could easily destroy Jiang Xiu. However, she still wanted to keep Jiang Xiu alive and bring him back for Tai Hua sect to criticize. Maybe. Of course I'm proud to see the person who went against Tai Hua sect end up like this. Jiang Xiu said, "Have you heard of something?" "What?" Jiang Xiu said, "Extreme joy begets sorrow." Ha. Ever since Jiang Shi married Ji Daozong, everything had been going smoothly for her. She was indeed very happy. She even accomplished something like moving the sect. So what if I'm proud? What can you do to me? She finally saw Jiang Xiu's helpless expression. Jiang Xiu said indifferently, "That Lingshu was arranged by you, right?" "So what? Many people in the sect can see it clearly. However, I don't need to care about them. As long as the sect believes in me, that's enough." Jiang Shi admitted frankly. She wanted to rub salt into Jiang Xiu's wound. "Do you think Tianqing school will really move the sect?" Jiang Shi said, "That day, it was still decided yesterday. No one can object anymore." Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "Tianqing school has been in the Tianqing mountains for hundreds of thousands of years and is still deeply rooted. Do you think a mere sect master who has been in power for less than 100 years can move the sect?" Jiang Shi frowned slightly. "Nothing is impossible. Although the sect's foundation is shallow, it has the support of Tai Hua sect." Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. When Jiang Luoxia was here, Tai Hua sect didn't even dare to fart. In the eyes of the elders and disciples of Tianqing school, Tai Hua sect is nothing. Jiang Shi said with a cold face, "But the truth has been passed through the palace meeting. The Tianqing school will move away from the Tianqing mountains." Jiang Xiu said, "Naive. The elders didn't object because they found another way?" "Other methods." Jiang Xiu's face changed slightly. They had been prepared to deal with a lot of resistance from the beginning, but the progress of things was much better than they had expected. Now that Jiang Xiu had said this, her heart surged with a very bad feeling. She asked, "What way?" Jiang Xiu said, "What is the Ji Dao sect's greatest reliance?" "Of course it's my Tai Hua sect. What if the Ji Dao sect loses the support of Tai Hua sect?" Jiang Shi pondered for a moment and said, "Then it's very likely that they will use the 6 soldiers' disarming armor to deal with the Dao sect. However, my Tai Hua sect will never give up on the Dao sect. We will always support them." Jiang Xiu smiled coldly and said, "That's not necessarily true. I'm a member of the Tai Hua sect. Don't you think I know better than you?" Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. Drizzle continued to fall from the sky. There was even a flash of lightning in the distant sky, illuminating the entire sky. It made people's hearts sink. What do you mean?" Jiang Xiu said, "But what if you die?" Suddenly, Jiang Shi's eyes widened, and there was a flash of panic in her eyes. Jiang Xiu's words exploded in her mind like thunder. "You mean?" At this moment, she felt a strong aura of death enveloping her. Jiang Xiu said, "If I'm not wrong, there's a killing array in this mountain range. This will be the place where you will be buried." "No, it's impossible." But her face had already turned as pale as the ash on the wall, and her voice was trembling. Jiang Shi looked up in horror. This rain was very strange. It had already formed bursts of magical power fluctuations in the sky, and the surrounding aura was also violently stirred up, forming a chaotic vortex of airflow. The flying boat had been flying for so long, but in fact, it was taking a detour in the sky. It had been under the cover of the rain. "How dare you dare to rebel?" Jiang Shi screamed in horror. "I'm the wife of the Ji Dao sect." Jiang Shi didn't hear a response. Her face changed several times, and she felt suffocated. The sword under her body was shining brightly. She didn't care about anything else and rushed forward at full speed. But the next second, she was dumbfounded. Above the sky, amidst the rain, a huge figure suddenly appeared. The power of the immortal king descended from the sky, forming a group of illusory shadows, like a black ghost, crazily attacking. Its whole body was as thick as ink, and black gas flowed. Its whole body was covered with dense black bone spurs, each of which was several feet long, as terrifying as a sharp sword. Jiangshi saw the scene in front of her, and her heart turned cold. In terms of strength, she was weaker than any of the elders of the Tianqing school. Soul-breaking sword of Heaven's Road. This was one of the few soul attacks in the Tianqing school. Its power wasn't great, but as long as it was a soul attack, no matter how weak its power was, it was enough to make people tremble. Not to mention that it was performed by an immortal king. Transforming bowl, condense. She stretched out her finger and gently flicked her earrings. Zhang Xiu had noticed it a long time ago. As the wife of the Tianqing school sect master, she had many accessories on her head, neck, and hands, but she had never changed her earrings. As expected, they were a spiritual defensive magic weapon. Ding! There was a long howl that made people's eardrums hurt. At the same time, black gas rolled on the surface of her body, blocking all the spiritual power attacks. The soul attack was a trump card, but it was also an appetizer. It would be strange if she didn't have a spiritual magic weapon. But all of this was expected. Next was the real hunt. In the distant sky, after the fierce shadow of the sky pressed down at high speed, a human figure appeared at the forefront, as if he had come from another void. At the same time, he urged the long sword with both hands to slash down. The whole process was as smooth as moving clouds and flowing water. There was no extra movement, as if it had been precisely calculated. Jiangxi's mouth was constantly chanting incantations. His lips opened and closed rapidly. With a loud bang, a loud roar came out of his mouth. The sound waves formed a huge body. That body was like an ancient giant beast. It was incomparably powerful and incomparably angry as it resisted the sword light shooting down from the sky. With a ding, the long sword collided with the sound wave behemoth. Roar! This was not some kind of secret technique, but it actually blocked the sword technique. The other party let out a low roar, and the long sword moved again. Suddenly, dense sword shadows burst out, and like raindrops, they shot towards the sound wave behemoth. The sound wave formed the strongest defense when the sound reached the peak. Even if it was not attacked, it would be weakened, let alone when it was hit by a more powerful attack. She took this opportunity, took out a talisman in her hand, and patted it on her body. Immediately, her figure flashed into the void, and she was about to escape. Humph! If I let you escape today, I will ask myself on the spot. A cold snort came from the void, and a figure wielding a purple sword danced in the air, flashing all the way over. Under the pressure of the sword, the void was strangely distorted, and Jiangxi's figure was forcibly pushed back from the void by this figure. The collision of two powerful forces exploded with a loud bang. You? Jiangxi stared at the person who came. You? It was already difficult for her to deal with one person, and now there was another one. The person who came could even force her escape technique to squeeze the void and force her back. There's no need to hide. Are all the people from Tianqing school so cowardly? Her two arms suddenly moved, and magic power rolled down. In the deafening roar, two huge monsters that were like small mountains rushed over with their bloody mouths wide open. These monsters actually split into two, and then into four. In an instant, the sky was filled with monsters, and they rushed towards each other. Bang! A loud sound was heard. A black figure trembled twice from the sky and turned into a violent gust of wind. As soon as he opened his mouth, it was like a bottomless pit, swallowing everything in one gulp. Zhang Xiu couldn't help but smile. Zhang Xiu had also used the spirit-devouring technique on Earth. It could devour spirits, and it could also nourish one's immortal body and restore spiritual power. When used by an immortal king, the power was even more extraordinary. The third immortal king. Jiangxi's face no longer had any color. Facing three immortal kings, she might not even have a chance to escape. Master, save me. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.